Chapter 1387. The biggest problem with the premature opening of the Spirit Sea to Taishu Temple was that the Haotian mirror still couldn't be restored to perfection. But even so, the Haotian mirror in the Spirit Sea displayed a much stronger power than when it was in the vast thousand worlds. Rays of the Great Tao were added to the bright mirror light, causing the Haotian mirror to be like the core of the Spirit Sea. Vaguely, there were signs of the Spirit Sea being activated. Lin Feng, Sun Mirage, Yudu, and the others, who had some understanding of the Haotian mirror, weren't surprised by this. Even if they didn't consider the characteristics of the Haotian mirror, at this moment, everyone was working together to fill in the gap of the Spirit Sea, which was like a sea of light. The area occupied by Taishu Temple was the largest, with one sect occupying nearly half of it. Although the Spirit Sea had been closed the last time, among the three sects, Xianmen Tianzong, Yudu Race, and Taishu Temple undoubtedly had more opportunities. At this moment, these advantages were directly displayed. In the Battle of the Spirit Sea, the past grudges and factions were no longer accurate. At this moment, whoever had a greater advantage would be the common opponent of the others, and the others would naturally form an alliance based on common interests. Thus, almost at the same time, the huge black sun, the dark clouds that covered the sky, and the stubborn rocks attacked the bright mirror light at the same time. Lord Tai and the others were clearly prepared for this. Although the pressure was great, they didn't panic and calmly dealt with it. The brilliance of the mirror light suddenly converged, becoming quiet and deep. Wherever the brilliance flowed, it first shrouded the huge black sun. The huge black sun that was shown by the mirror light instantly seemed to be frozen in time and space, forcibly fixed in place. The mirror light flowed faintly, and the light of the outside sea of light overflowed in all directions. Only the huge black sun didn't move, forming a sharp contrast with the surrounding scenery. The light spots around the black sun and the raging flames also stopped at this moment, like a statue. Soon after, the motionless black sun was like a real statue that had experienced the long passage of time. It began to decay and turn into sand. Its surface was peeling off, and it was about to collapse. At this moment, there seemed to be a long howl in the Spirit Sea. The black sun suddenly accelerated its collapse, and rays of terrifying black light shot out from it, causing the surrounding Great Tao to tremble and wail. The black sun that was covered by the Haotian mirror became alive again. Although it had shrunk in size, the light it emitted was even more dazzling. But as it changed, the faint mirror light became even more mysterious and unfathomable. Under the guidance of an invisible force, the great Taos in his spiritual sea began to converge toward the mirror light and fuse with it. Countless images were faintly discernible amidst the flowing light of the Grand Tao. They didn't reveal a specific object, and they revealed various principles and concepts instead. Some were simple and ordinary, some were profound and obscure. With the support of the Great Tao, wherever the mirror light shrouded, the space suddenly began to expand rapidly, and time seemed to be flowing backward. Under the illumination of the mirror light, the black sun seemed to be stretched and extended continuously, and it was about to return to its previous size. And in this process, the vitality of the black sun seemed to decrease again, and it was about to return to its previous solidified state. At the same time, the dark clouds formed by the enchantress's demonic consciousness had already floated above the Haotian mirror. The dark clouds covered the sun, and the mirror light seemed to dim a little, and the rock formed by the monkey's demonic consciousness instantly passed through the layers of light, and like a comet, it struck toward the center of the Haotian mirror. Its momentum seemed to want to shatter the mirror. However, the Haotian mirror flashed faintly, and the rock passed through the dim light. It was as if the profound and majestic mirror that had frozen the black sun was an illusion. And under the cover of the dark clouds that covered the sky, the mirror light was not affected at all. It was as if both parties were in different space-time. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. It's indeed extraordinary. It's really rare for someone with the monkey's and the enchantress's cultivation to be able to use the changes in space-time to cause them to misjudge. However, the monkey and the enchantress were not easy to deal with. After missing their attack, they immediately reacted. At the next moment, a light shadow appeared on the rock formed by the monkey's demonic consciousness. The light shadow kept on changing, showing the images of the candle dragon, Zhuyin, the great golden-winged rock, the Hui dragon, the white jade dragon, and many other great demons. As the light shadow changed, those great demons seemed to be indistinguishable from one another. They fused as one, and the various powers of time and space were augmented. They fused with the rock and then struck toward the Haotian mirror once again. On the other side, streams of light also emerged from the dark clouds formed by the heavenly charmer saint's demonic power and divine sense. 12 beams of light could be vaguely seen lighting up, and then they condensed into 4 extremely dazzling beams of light, almost breaking through the area covered by the dark clouds. Under the support of the 4 light pillars, the dark clouds instantly became even more ethereal and illusory. It was as if they existed in countless different space-time and were omnipresent, descending toward the Haotian mirror. The Haotian mirror's light turned from deep and dark to bright and dazzling once again. Streams of mirror light spread out from within. Each stream of mirror light shone in midair and suddenly refracted in a different direction in the void, as if there was another mirror there. The refraction of the mirror light became increasingly faster. Then, one Haotian mirror after another really appeared in the void. Each mirror light was gathering the radiance of the great Tao of the Spirit Sea to augment it. The illusory mirror light began to materialize. Streams of light crisscrossed, causing the sea of light before them to be almost filled by the Haotian mirror's mirror light. Everyone present frowned slightly. The Spirit Sea seems to be the Haotian mirror's home ground. It's indeed a Dharma treasure born from the great thousand world. It already has some of the power of a perfected Dharma treasure. Although it was facing the threat of monkey and the enchantress, more and more mirror light gathered on the black sun. It kept increasing its power, wanting to shatter it first. The black sun was enveloped by the increasingly intense mirror light, and its body kept expanding. Its body grew larger and larger, but the power aura within it grew weaker. The area of the sea of light that had been enveloped by the black sunlight gradually faded and was contaminated by the mirror light. Numerous black talisman markings appeared and connected together, transforming into numerous divine command incantations that formed a ring that revolved around the black sun without stopping. In the black sun, streams of divine light surged, shaking the heavens and the earth. It stabilized its body and resisted the mirror light. As the mirror light crisscrossed, the rock that was blocked suddenly revealed a violent and ferocious aura, as if it had been enraged. Not only did the shadows of great demons flicker on the rock, but cracks actually appeared on the surface of the rock. In the cracks, a pair of blood-red eyes flashed in the darkness like 2 bloody red suns. A light figure condensed with the rock as the center, turning into a ferocious golden monkey that stood tall. Its feet stepped on the heaven and earth, and its head was above the universe. Its body was extremely huge, and incomparably violent chi and blood surged from its body. With a wave of its hand, a thick iron rod that looked like a pillar that supported the heavens appeared. That was not the end. 2 strands of hair fell from the back of the golden monkey's neck. They grew with the wind and instantly turned into 2 identical monkeys. The 3 golden monkeys bared their teeth at the mirror light that filled the sky. Then, they jumped in the void, and the 3 huge bodies collided with each other. They instantly combined and turned into one body that had 3 heads and 6 arms. With this combination, the 4 empty arms shook, and a huge iron rod that was formed by the Rui divine iron mine actually had 2 more arms. Behind the golden monkey with 3 heads and 6 arms, the shadows of the candle dragon, Hun Dun, golden winged rock, and many other great demons flashed and became clearer. Grow, grow, grow. The three heads of the giant monkey shouted together majestically. The three thick iron rods swept across the sea of light, shattering the endless radiance and piercing the white sea of clouds. The Haotian mirror that was formed by the mirror light was instantly shattered by the monkey. Facing such a ferocious monkey, everyone present couldn't help but raise their brows. Did this monkey experience a tribulation? It only passed one tribulation, and it shouldn't have completely passed the tribulation's weak period. Why is it so violent? The monkey's ability surpassed most people's expectations, but no one was happy. The Haotian mirror was executed here, and to a certain extent, it was compatible with the great Tao of the spirit sea, so there was no need to worry. However, this monkey was too unbridled. If it continued to fight like this, it wouldn't be able to completely fix the flaw in the spirit sea. If it wasn't careful, it might be torn apart again. The huge black sun shone, and in the sunlight, a figure could be faintly seen. Then, circles after circles of black light spread out in all directions, shaking the mirror light that fixed him in place. These black mysterious lights were the terrifying Yudu Xianhua of Mirage Sun Yudu. However, under the control of Mirage Sun Yu, the Yudu Xianhua wasn't as violent as before. Instead, it was like a tidal wave that formed a region in the void and fixed the world of the sea of light in place. The mirror light and the black light collided continuously, shattering one after another. Meanwhile, the area of the dark clouds that the enchantress transformed into became larger and larger, surrounding the Haotian mirror and blocking the intersecting mirror light that extended out. Although the mirror light continued to pierce through the clouds, it was sluggish as it flowed. In this situation, the golden monkey on the other side raised his 1,000-pound cudgel and shattered the illusory mirror. A soft sigh seemed to come from the Haotian mirror, and the mirror light turned to aim at the monkey. Under the circulation of the mirror light, the monkey's extremely violent movements finally slowed down. It was as though he was about to be fixed in the void. But at this moment, the body in the huge black sun completely solidified. Mirage Sun Yudu walked out from the huge black sun and swallowed it. The triangular radiance on the top of his head flowed, and a terrifying black mysterious light burst forth, striking towards the Haotian mirror. As the mirror light of the Haotian mirror swirled, it once again fought against the terrifying Yudu Xianhua. However, the monkey on the other side had already raised his head to the sky and let out a long howl. With a leap, he traversed through the world and jumped out of the range of the mirror light. His 3 divine metal cudgels smashed towards the same point under the immense force. This strike was vigorous, as though it was going to shatter heaven and earth. Its target was the true center of the Haotian mirror, which was also his target all along. Lin Feng looked at the sight in front of his eyes, and at the same time, he was also paying attention to the light shadow of the Buddha in the sea of light that had never moved. Chapter 1388. Silently, the Buddha's light shadow stayed in a corner of the sea of light. It didn't take the opportunity to expand the area it occupied, nor did it attack anyone. It was as if there was no movement at all. This slightly abnormal action, apart from Lin Feng, the other people fighting actually also more or less split some of their attention, paying attention to it. However, if the future star glazed Buddha Master didn't take the initiative to interfere in the battle, the others wouldn't find trouble with him for the time being. The monkey might still be thinking about him and Golden Cicada, but at this moment, the Haotian mirror undoubtedly attracted his attention. It manifested 3 heads and 6 arms, and the 3 divine metal rods hit the same point together. Before they hit their target, that point formed a black hole, causing everything in the surroundings to collapse towards that point. It was as if a hole had appeared in the entire world, producing a huge suction force. Everything in the world was about to be sucked out of this hole. Facing the monkey's violent attack, the Haotian mirror, which had its attention drawn by the sun Mirage Yu, flowed with rays of light. They stacked layer by layer, forming something that looked like a crystal, wrapping the entire treasure mirror inside out. The monkey's 3 rods merged into one, and this point struck the crystal on the outer layer of the Haotian mirror. The surface of the crystal instantly cracked a little, and the surrounding crystals started to shatter, being pulled towards that black point. However, at this moment, a colorless and formless light shot out from that black point, sweeping up the light ribbons formed by the logic of the great Tao in the surrounding sea of light. They gathered together and bombarded the monkey's metal rods. The monkey was knocked back, and 2 of the 3 divine metal rods in his hands broke. The crystal shell surrounding the Haotian mirror completely shattered, revealing the original appearance of the Haotian mirror. At the center of the treasure mirror, a colorless and formless divine light was as thin as a strand of hair, but it flowed in the void, causing the radiance of the great Tao in the spirit sea to shake the heaven and earth. It resisted another beam of Yudu profound splendor from the sun Marav Yudu on the other side. However, the radiance of the clear sky mirror was slightly dimmer than it was at the beginning. The area of the sea of light that was covered by the mirror light also gradually shrunk. The light and shadow of Yudu seemed to have produced 2 huge black suns in its left and right eyes, and the area of the ocean of light that was occupied by the sunlight started to expand. Lin Feng glanced at the Buddha's silhouette and didn't say anything. He used his mind to control the purple cloud that was formed from his magic power and consciousness and spread it towards other areas of the sea of light. The purple auspicious clouds rolled like a boiling purple sea of clouds. They spread for millions of miles and instantly covered the sea of light. However, the first target chosen by the purple chi was not the Taishu temple, which had the most advantage in the field. Instead, it abruptly covered the dark cloud formed by the enchantress's demonic power divine sense. The low, hoarse voice of the enchantress came from the dark clouds. Master of the celestial sect of wonders, are you still concerned about the difference between the human clan and the demon clan? Lin Feng didn't mind and smiled. What do you think? As they spoke, Zhang Xian's movements did not slow down at all. Surging purple auras swept out, and wherever it went, the dark clouds would be forced back. In the purple sea of clouds, there were many Taiji diagrams, big and small, circling together. In the center of each Taiji diagram, there seemed to be a Taoist sitting upright, both hands forming a mudra. Rays of resplendent light undulated in the void. As they undulated, they seemed to be guiding the ribbons of light formed by the great Tao of heaven and earth in the sea of light. The ribbons of light formed by the great Tao of heaven and earth hung down like silk ribbons and landed on the Taiji diagrams. As the Taiji diagrams rotated, they merged with the Taoist in the center of the Taiji diagrams. Not only did the enchantress frown at the sight of this scene, but even the people of Taishu Temple, the Yudu clan, and even the monkey who were fighting fiercely at the side were attracted to it. The Haotian mirror is the treasure of heaven and earth born from the great heaven primordial world. It's an existence like the sun of the great Kiliacosm, so it's not strange for it to be able to guide the flow of light formed by the great Tao of heaven and earth in the spirit sea. However, this master of the celestial sect of wonders is completely because of himself. What is he relying on? He perfected the path of karma of Buddhism, opened a forum to give lectures and enlighten other sections. Could it be that his orthodoxy is really so miraculous? As the enchantress thought to herself, the dark clouds formed by her demonic power, consciousness flew backward, not coming into contact with Lin Feng's rolling purple chi. The scene in front of her was beyond her expectations. Even though she still had some strength left, the Lin Feng in front of her was even more unfathomable. As the enchantress retreated, the 4 dazzling pillars of light in the dark clouds dispersed again, turning into 12 pillars of light. Then, the demonic aura of these 12 pillars of light suddenly changed, turning into 4 pillars of light again. However, the concept of power within them was completely different from before. The concept of power of the 4 great demon races, Phoenix, Black Tortoise, Qilin, and Zhuezhing, surged forth, causing the area covered by the dark clouds to feel indestructible. Although under the pressure of Lin Feng's purple chi, she retreated step by step, she did not panic. Little by little, she maintained the area of the sea of light that she had occupied, so that she would not be swept out by Lin Feng as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. As the area covered by the enchantress's dark clouds continued to shrink, her power also became more condensed, and her defense became stronger. But Lin Feng smiled faintly. Amidst the rolling purple gas, beams of light continuously emerged, turning into a world of pure light. The light seemed to be endless, also forming a sea of light. It was different from the sea of light of the great path that everyone was currently in, but it was constantly merging. This was indeed the yin and yang life and death formation controlled by Lin Feng, which had launched the changes of the two extremes. In the world of pure light, a majestic palace appeared. Beams of purple and gold radiance filled the air, causing the expansion of the world of pure light to become even more domineering and heavy. With the palace as the center, the scenery in the world of pure light gradually changed. Endless radiance turned into all kinds of scenery, heaven and earth, nature. Mountains, plains, rivers, lakes, grasslands, deserts, all gradually took shape, together forming a new world. In this world, majestic cities rose from the ground, turning into a kingdom of light. Countless lights and shadows appeared, and figures flickered, forming farmers in the fields, hunters in the mountains, peddlers in the cities, scholars, and officials. Everything was centered on the palace of the divine king in the sky that was flashing with purple and gold radiance. All living beings in the world worshipped it, and thousands of celestial fairies shuttled through it, holding nectar in their hands. Shadows of celestials came from all directions to pay homage. Endless purple and gold radiance filled the air, making this kingdom of light seem indestructible and eternal. The territory of the kingdom kept expanding in all directions. At the edge of this kingdom of light, there were countless celestial gods and celestial generals, divine soldiers, and powerful horses, leading the way for the kingdom to expand. The entire kingdom of light was born from the billowing purple chi. Then, with the help of the purple chi, it kept pressing toward the area occupied by the enchantress in the sea of light. The enchantress took a deep breath, and the dark clouds once again shrank by a large margin. The area it occupied became narrower, but its defense was stronger. Has the grand imperial palace finally been subdued by the master of the celestial sect? How can the concept of power that I am supreme submit to others? The path of the master of the celestial sect is not like the grand emperor who controls the imperial Tao. While pressuring the enchantress to retreat, Lin Feng's spiritual power and consciousness continued to expand to other places. And at this moment, the image in the Haotian mirror shook slightly. Outside the sea of light, the world of the spirit sea, where everyone in the Taishu temple was also constantly changing. The world twisted and overlapped, and it was about to merge with the space-time of the spirit sea, where everyone else was. In this world, there was no one, only a huge ball of light. The ball of light was divided into 9 layers, showing different scenes. And in these 9 layers, every layer was occupied by a figure. The highest layer was indescribable, and in the indescribable mysterious light sat an elder in white. His eyes were tightly shut, and he was none other than Tao, Venerable Supreme Unity. Tao, Venerable Supreme Unity frowned. The master of the celestial sect has forced back the enchantress for the center of the sea of light occupied by our temple's Haotian mirror. In the sea of light, billowing purple chi filled the air, covering the sky and covering the earth. But in the process of traveling through the mysterious space-time, the purple chi displayed a strange posture. It actually compressed and condensed into a line, piercing through the area covered by the light of the Haotian mirror. From a strange direction, it approached the Haotian mirror. At the same time, Monkey and Yudu had already attacked again. The Haotian mirror shone brightly, and rays of mirror light covered the sky, transforming into rings of light. Within the area covered by the rings of light, time and space seemed to be completely frozen. Anyone who stepped into the rings of light, no matter if it was Monkey, Mirage Sun, Yudu, or Lin Feng, their movements became sluggish. The closer they got to the inside, the more rings of light they passed through, and the sluggish their movements became. It wasn't just consciousness magic power. Outside the sea of light, even the true bodies of Lin Feng and the rest, who were in different spirit seas, felt their thoughts becoming slower and slower, as if they were about to be frozen. But right after, a layer of mysterious light appeared on the periphery of the purple chi in the sea of light. It was as if the river of time was flowing, intersecting with the purple chi. Instantly, it broke free from the shroud of the mirror light and continued to rush towards the Haotian mirror. On the other side, the body that Mirage Sun and Yudu's demon power and consciousness had manifested in the sea of light also gave off a low growl, and a resplendent black light shot out from the heart of his brows. In the sea of light, the wails of the great Tao rang out incessantly, and the terrifying black light instantly pierced through the outer rings of the Haotian mirror. The monkey didn't remove his three-headed and six-armed form, and he continued to shout towards the sky. The light shadows of the other life forms above his head all vanished, and only a huge blue-eyed white monkey was left. Then he suddenly leaped, and his six arms grabbed onto the remaining divine metal cudgel. That divine metal cudgel became even larger, and its aura became even fiercer. With the momentum of trampling on the sky, it smashed towards the Haotian mirror. Facing this heavy attack, the Haotian mirror's light flashed, and it was shattered by the combined forces of the three parties. But in another place that seemed to be so close yet so far away, light gathered, and the Haotian mirror appeared once again. It was just that at this moment, it was already forced to leave its original position. Chapter 1389. The Haotian mirror seemed to be connected to the heavens and was above all space-time. It was omnipresent and hard to destroy. Even though it was shattered by the combined efforts of the three parties, it was only the Haotian mirror in this layer of space-time that shattered. It quickly appeared in another layer of space-time, and it was extremely mysterious. With just one shattering, the Haotian mirror's light dimmed slightly, and it was forced to leave the position it had occupied previously. Before this, not only did the Taishu Temple occupy the largest area in the Sea of Light, but because of the Haotian mirror's miraculousness, it affected the Great Tao and occupied the center of the Sea of Light. By retreating this time, it also gave up the center of the Sea of Light. However, the Haotian mirror's light spread out in all directions, guiding the light ribbons that were formed by the Great Tao of heaven and earth to gather towards it. Meanwhile, the space-time in the Sea of Light was changing continuously. It looked as if wherever the Haotian mirror was, it was the center of the Sea of Light. However, how could Lin Feng and the rest sit back and watch it gather the great Tao of the Spirit Sea again? Forget about the monkey. The churning purple chi in the sea of clouds that was formed by Lin Feng's magic power and consciousness surged continuously. The river of time was also entangling the great Tao of the Spirit Sea, preventing those silk-like light ribbons from landing on the Haotian mirror. Numerous Taiji diagrams gathered together at this moment, forming an incomparably huge Taiji diagram. In the center of the Taiji diagram, Lin Feng stood on it, and as his hands kept changing signs, streams of light surged on the Taiji diagram, guiding the light ribbons formed by the great Tao of heaven and earth to land on his body, replacing the Haotian mirror as it occupied the center of the Sea of Light. However, on the other side, Sun Mirage Yudu attacked Lin Feng, and the huge black sun shrouded the heavens, causing the purple chi formed by Lin Feng's magic power and consciousness to look darker. Seeing the changes in the Haotian mirror and Lin Feng, how could Sun Mirage Yudu not know what Lin Feng was planning? In the center of the black sun, A purple brilliance suddenly shot out, turning the black sun into a purple sun. The terrifying brilliance shook the heavens and earth. After feeling this purple brilliance, his entire spirit sea began to tremble slightly. The space and time of heaven and earth that had been constantly folding and changing actually showed signs of instability. A broken horn flickered with purple light. It emerged from the black sun and dyed the surrounding world purple. After this broken horn appeared, it didn't actively attack anyone. Instead, it began to attract the light of the great path of the spiritual sea, which gathered around it. Whether it was Lin Feng's body or the Haotian mirror, the ribbons of light that connected them seemed to have been cut apart by invisible blades. The broken horn began to be surrounded by the brilliance of the great path. Time and space twisted in the sea of light, and the broken horn seemed to become the center of the world. Lin Feng, the Supreme One Tao's sovereign, and the others didn't seem surprised at all. They all activated their magic power to strengthen their connection with the spirit sea. As the light on the broken horn flowed, it gradually became sluggish. The three parties targeted the brilliance of the great path in the sea of light, and they started a new fight. Meanwhile, Sun Mirage Yudu's demon power consciousness manifested its own image and continued to attack Lin Feng. The huge silver-white Yudu beast body was covered in black and purple light markings. They flowed continuously and formed an incomparably terrifying power. When its claw landed, a huge black sun condensed in the center of its palm. It covered all directions and covered Lin Feng's head. Sun Mirage Yudu's voice rang out in the void. The fight for the spirit sea is of great importance. You don't have your sword now, so I can only offend you for taking advantage of you. A grand voice rang out in the sea of light, and Sun Mirage Yudu's claw changed again. Other than the huge black sun in the center of his palm, another huge black sun appeared at the tips of his 5 fingers. Heavenly, illusory 6 sun claws was a unique demon divine art that Sun Mirage Yudu cultivated heavenly Tao demon scriptures and combined with his comprehension of the great path of heaven and earth. The 6 black suns fell towards Lin Feng together, causing the originally peaceful and senseless sea of light to feel a dry and hot feeling. The purple sea of clouds formed from his mana, and consciousness seemed to be burning at this moment. A cold glint flashed in Lin Feng's eyes, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Everyone is relying on their own abilities, so what's there to talk about who is taking advantage and who is losing? It's just that. He stretched out both of his hands, and the index fingers of his left and right hands touched together. 2 balls of light, one black and one white, appeared. Do you think you'll be able to take advantage just because you're taking advantage? 2 beams of light, one black and one white, rushed into the sky. Wherever the light passed, it attracted the light of the great path of heaven and earth in the spirit sea to get closer to the light. Then they were swept into the light, causing the 2 beams of light to become even more dazzling. In those great Taos, life and death, longevity and destruction, hardness and softness, false and real, light and heavy, up and down, clear and turbid, light and dark, end and end, countless great Taos that stood in opposition to each other gathered towards the 2 beams of light that Lin Feng had released. They were swept into them and separated into black and white. Wherever the light passed, time and space became blank. And in this blank, it didn't give off a feeling of extinction and loneliness. Instead, it seemed to contain endless possibilities. On Lin Feng's body, the black and white creation divine light also lit up at that moment. It shook the heaven and earth, exceeding what it had been in the past. Countless divine markings were imprinted in the sunlight that spanned across the void. They scattered and caused the entire sea of light to brighten up, causing the 6 huge black suns that shrouded his head to no longer be exclusive to the front. At that moment, Lin Feng himself was like a brilliant sun that was intertwined with black and white, illuminating the heavens. This black and white creation divine light merged with the black and white beams of divine light that Lin Feng had released earlier, and they became even more resplendent and condensed. The long river of time flowed continuously, circling around the two beams of light. Under the misty and mysterious brilliance, Lin Feng's magic, creation divine light, and the magic power of the bell of creation combined together, turning into a seemingly motionless light mist. In the light mist, primordial chaos could be vaguely seen. The primordial world opened up, and the yin and yang first appeared. The evolved earth, water, fire, and wind flowed continuously in a chaotic manner. Then, the earth, water, fire, and wind stabilized, and the world was created. Clear qi floated up, turbid qi descended, and all living things began to emerge. Under the vicissitudes of the world, all living things multiplied and developed. After the age of desolation, they entered the golden age and then entered the end of the world. Under the age of Dharma ending, everything withered, and finally, heaven and earth were completely extinguished. After the extinguishment, everything returned to the beginning, and the next era began anew. All these changes were ever-changing, but in the light mist, there was a kind of motionless and unchanging state. It was as if this was the true meaning of eternity, the only truth that was indestructible and indestructible. This was the highest achievement that Lin Feng had comprehended from the yin and yang fusion scripture. Eternal calamity light. This light looked unmoving and unchanging, but as Lin Feng pointed with his index fingers, it was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. It landed on the claws of Sun Mirage Yudu and collided with the 6 huge black suns. Wherever the light passed, the 6 huge black suns gradually collapsed, and the scorching feeling disappeared. Instead, it gave rise to a cold feeling. It was as if the universe had come to an end, and the stars were extinguished, heading towards the end. Sun Mirage Yudu's gaze became much more solemn. You still have such abilities even without a sword. His claws suddenly closed, and he crushed the 6 huge suns first. The black sunlight transformed into a rain of light that scattered and swept across the entire sea of light. It even broke the silk-like light that was manifested by the great Tao of heaven and earth. In the next moment, Sun Mirage Yudu roared into the sky, and the black god markings on the long horn on his head shuttled continuously. At the heart of his brows, an extremely terrifying black light emerged. When Lin Feng saw this, he narrowed his eyes. Not only could Xianli not follow him into the spirit sea, he also had to be careful when using Heaven Punishment Sword Qi and Heaven Punishment Sword formation. Otherwise, even though it wouldn't attract the hostility of the spirit sea, it would break his connection with the great Tao of the spirit sea. However, his expression did not show any signs of panic. With a thought, the capital of radiance formed by the power of the Grand Imperial Palace and the yin and yang life and death formation no longer oppressed the heavenly enchantress great saint. Instead, it shrunk to a small spot of light and returned to his glabella. With the support of the power of Sun Mirage formation and life and death formation, Lin Feng's aura surged again, and a lump of light suddenly appeared above his head. Within the light, it actually condensed into a huge axe that could split the sky. Outside the sea of light, in the real world of the spirit sea, the Sun Mirage formation and life and death formation on top of Lin Feng's head displayed the changes of heaven and earth in the 6 transformations to the extreme. Meanwhile, Sun Mirage formation was also nurturing the terrifying Emperor extreme skill of heaven splitting. In the next moment, the Sun Mirage formation executed the last skill of the 6 transformations. 2 extremes returned to nothing. With the suppression of Sun Mirage Palace, everything in the formation wouldn't shatter, and the power of the changes of heaven and earth, 2 extremes returned to nothing, and Emperor extreme skill of heaven splitting surged together. In the world of the Sea of Light, it was the huge axe above Lin Feng's head that cleaved towards Sun Mirage Yudu's head. At the same time, He fused with the magic power of the long river of time, formed by the bell of creation, and executed the eternal calamity light again to attack Sun Mirage Yudu. With a cold whistle from Sun Mirage Yudu, the power of Yudu's mysterious light pierced through heaven and earth and collided with Lin Feng's eternal calamity light and the huge axe. The sea of light rippled violently, as though it would be torn apart at any moment. This forced the Haotian mirror, the enchantress, and future constellation glazed Buddha master to stabilize the sea of light first. At this moment, Lin Feng gave a low shout, and a purple flowing light flew out from his body. It was a golden bead that was flashing with purple radiance. It was the heavenly scarlet golden bead, and it transformed into flowing light that passed through layers of void and landed on the broken horn that originated from Yu Wang, Celestial Sea. When the two sides collided, the broken horn instantly trembled slightly, and the progress of the great Tao of heaven and earth in the spirit sea slowed down significantly. Sun Mirage Yudu let out an angry roar when he saw this. Before he could react, Lin Feng laughed, and a golden light flashed in one of his eyes. Then, a golden disk flew out from his eye and landed in the sea of light. The golden disk trembled, and a huge suction force was instantly released from it. The streams of light formed by the great Tao of heaven and earth gathered towards the golden disk like rivers returning to the sea. Chapter 1390. That golden disk that looked shallow seemed to be bottomless at that moment as it absorbed the great Tao's light. The sea of light trembled slightly, and as time and space changed, this golden disk had already occupied the center of the sea of light. Mirage Sun Yudu saw that disk, and his brows furrowed slightly. I seem to have seen this before in the war between the two worlds. I just didn't expect it to have such an effect. The unexpected change caught the people of Mirage Sun, Yudu, and the Void Temple off guard for a moment. The enchantress and the monkey were slightly stunned when they saw this. The eyes of the future star glazed Buddha Master in the distance, which had manifested from his magic power consciousness, also flickered slightly. The golden disk occupied the center of the sea of light, streams of light of the great Tao converging within, while layers of purple energy surged out from the golden disk, continuously spreading in all directions. In an instant, it covered a large area, engulfing the area occupied by the Great Void Temple, Yudu clan, and the monkey. And in that instant, when the people from both sides were exchanging blows, the change in the void of the spirit sea outside had also ended. The different space-time worlds overlapped and became one. The scene in front of everyone's eyes also changed. The originally boundless sea of light that seemed to be another world that was on par with the space of the spirit sea had shrunk significantly. It looked like a huge lake that was filled with golden water. On the shores of this golden lake, a few groups of people each occupied one side. Lin Feng looked up and saw that on the opposite side of the lake, there was a huge, illusory ball of light. It was like a mountain peak, but also like a palace. It was split into 9 levels, and each level had a myriad of different scenes. They were also occupied by cultivators of Taishu Temple. On the highest level, the mysterious and unfathomable great void, mysterious light flashed, supporting Lord Tai, one amidst the light. It was as if he was in a marvelous realm that couldn't be observed, touched, or described. Above that huge, illusory ball of light, there was a treasured mirror floating. Rays of mirror light spread out in all directions, guiding the great Tao of heaven to gather on itself. The spirit chi in the spirit sea gathered endlessly towards this treasured mirror. It was as if this mirror was the center of the creation of the universe. Tao Lord Tai closed his eyes, but it seemed as if a gaze shot out from his closed eyes and landed in the center of the giant golden lake. Silently, a golden disk floated on the surface of the lake. It flickered with a bright radiance, yet was also eye-catching. It was Lin Feng's primeval golden lamp. At this moment, the golden disk was filled with golden liquid. It looked bright and ethereal, as if it was flowing with golden light. In the giant golden lake, streams of light were faintly discernible, constantly flowing and flowing, gathering with the primeval golden lamp as the center. Because of this, the premier golden lamp seemed to have replaced the position of the Haotian mirror and became the center of the spirit sea, attracting the infinite great way of heaven and earth to gather here. On Lin Feng's left was a Yudu beast that was covered in shiny silver fur, its body glowing with purple light, and a large number of black runes and runes surrounding its body. Its body was like a small mountain, and it had manifested its true form. It was standing there with 3 long horns on its head, and one of them was half short. It was the current clan master of Yudu race, the 12 fantasy sons of Yudu. At this moment, his expression was grave, and his gaze moved between the primeval golden lamp and Lin Feng in the center of the lake. Behind the fantasy sons of Yudu, there were 3 Yudu beasts that were similarly huge. 2 of them were strong practitioners of Yudu that had participated in the war between the 2 worlds. One was the strongest of the younger generation of Yudu race, Jing Yin Yudu. When he was going through the first calamity, his demon power could already fight with other great demons of the last days. At this moment, Jing Yin Yudu had already passed the last blight calamity and entered the last days realm. His demon power was world-shaking, and it made people's hearts palpitate. The other one was still going through the first calamity, and he was the son of fantasy sons of Yudu, Cloud, Rising Yudu. Seeing these 2, beside Lin Feng, Wang Lin's gaze instantly became a bit colder. Beside Jing Yin Yudu and Cloud, Rising Yudu was a Yudu beast that was much smaller in size. It looked thin and weak. However, the aura of demon power coming off his body was even stronger than Jing Yin Yudu, who had just entered the last days realm. His name was Xing Yudu, and in the war between the 2 worlds, he hadn't stepped into the divine land. Instead, he had stayed behind to guard Yudu, royal city. This time, he had left the mountain and entered the spirit sea with fantasy sons of Yudu race. Meanwhile, another great demon of the last days, Green Crest Yudu, was guarding Yudu royal city. Just this point alone made Zhu, Yi, and Wang Lin look at him more solemn. 4,000 years ago, during the war between the 2 worlds, Lord of the highest One Dao, Lord of the righteous One Dao, and the others had come into contact with Xingyo. They knew that Xingyo, who looked thin and weak, was actually slightly stronger than Green Crest Yudu and Empty Plain Yudu, who had fallen previously. However, this demon's personality was different from the other Yudu beasts. He didn't like fighting, so he rarely interfered in the war between Yudu race and other strong practitioners. Only when the situation was extremely important would he participate in the war for his race. The battle for the Spirit Sea was of great importance. If Taishu Temple or Xianmen Tianzong obtained the Spirit Sea, the pressure on Yudu race's survival would undoubtedly increase greatly. Therefore, even if Shing Yudu was unwilling, he had no choice but to obey fantasy sons of Yudu's orders and step into the Spirit Sea to participate in the battle. To the right of Lin Feng, along the shore of the lake, there was a figure separated by a certain distance. They were Monkey, the Enchantress, and Future Star Glaze Buddha Lord. Silently, Future Star Glaze Buddha Lord sat beside the lake. His body was like glaze, showing great purity and extreme bliss. His 48,000 arms were all forming mudras, and his eyes were closed as though he was dead. Other than when Lin Feng took out the primordial golden lamp, his thoughts fluctuated slightly. At other times, he was like a pure bystander, not speaking or moving. It was as though all the disputes had nothing to do with him, and they couldn't move him. Monkey, on the other hand, looked around Future Star Glaze Buddha Lord in annoyance, but there was no sign of Golden Cicada. This made him rather flustered and exasperated. Although the huge golden lake in front of them didn't look as vast and boundless as the Sea of Light, it was still extremely huge. It was like the sea of stars in the universe, giving Lin Feng and the rest a feeling that it was hard to cross. Lin Feng looked straight ahead, calmly looking at the Supreme, one of the 9 heavens imperial court on the other side of the lake, as well as the Haotian mirror above his head. He smiled slightly and flew up, landing in the center of the lake where the primordial golden lamp was. On the surface of the lake, around the primordial golden lamp, there was a faint purple mist. That was the area occupied by Lin Feng's magic power and consciousness. At this moment, the area occupied by Lin Feng had already replaced the Taishu Temple, becoming the largest area among everyone, occupying nearly half of the area. And at this moment, he had naturally replaced the Taishu Temple, becoming the target of public criticism. Sect Master Lin, I'm sorry. The Supreme, one of the Tao Master's tone was calm. Perhaps you are very confident, and I have never thought that others can't do what I can't do. However, the risk involved requires the entire human race to bear for you. If you fail, you won't be the only one who will suffer. I'm already old and timid. I can't bear to see such a thing. Although I'm helpless, I have to fight with you. The Haotian mirror above his head suddenly turned, and the faint mirror light shone towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Why are you so polite, Supreme, one of the Tao Master? On the other side, Mirage Sun Yudu didn't say a word. He also flew up and rushed towards the center of the lake. The side of the lake near him was pitch black and flashed with faint light. At this moment, raging waves rose and attacked the primordial golden lamp in the center of the lake. Future star glazed Buddha, Lord still didn't move. The enchantress's gaze moved, but he also didn't move. Monkey stared at Lin Feng, and his face revealed a troubled expression. In the end, he gave a long sigh and sat cross-legged on the shore. He stared at Lin Feng and stared at future star glazed Buddha Lord at the same time. Seeing the light from the Haotian mirror coming over, 7 colored halos floated around Lin Feng's body. He executed mysterious gate heaven escape and ascended step by step. It was as though he had surpassed the space-time everyone was in and was walking towards a higher level. However, the Haotian mirror's light turned and still chased after him. Lin Feng smiled and raised his palm gently, grabbing the air. The world of the spirit sea instantly trembled slightly, and an illusory dark starry sky appeared above everyone's head. Tens of thousands of stars twinkled, and the trajectories of countless stars seemed to have deviated. The powerful force of the turbulent star trajectories supported Lin Feng's body, making the magic power around him even more boundless. Specks of light that were like dust appeared around Lin Feng's body and expanded to form small worlds. The powerful force of Mount Meru in a mustard seed was displayed. Black and white divine light of creation surged around Lin Feng's body, and it incited the great Tao in the spirit sea to resonate continuously. The life and death formation above his head suddenly expanded, and under the suppression of the Grand Imperial Palace, it transformed into a kingdom of light that shook the heavens. In the next instant, this kingdom of light suddenly broke apart. It was as though a huge axe that could split the heavens had cleaved out from the kingdom of light, splitting apart the endless light and splitting the heaven and earth in front of it. Xianmin, Tianzong, and Taishu Temple, the 2 strongest forces in the world of the Divine Land, collided at this moment. Lin Feng performed the 2 great Tao magical techniques of changing heaven and earth and yin and yang minute dust at the same time, together with his own divine light of creation. They supported the sky-splitting axe that seemed to exist but could split the heavens and earth, and suddenly broke the faint mirror light. But Lord Tai and the others seemed to have expected it. Their expressions did not change, and they all formed a seal. The broken mirror light of the Haotian mirror was split into 2, but did not dissipate. Instead, it continued to envelop Lin Feng from both sides. But before they could get close, Lin Feng pointed with both of his fingers, and the bell of creation beside him turned into a long river of time. A beam of eternal light of calamity that was supported by the river of time and his own divine light of creation shot out and swept across the void, instantly cutting the mirror light that had split into 2. But at the same time, The huge figure of Sun Mirage Yudu had already arrived in front of Lin Feng, and his eyes flashed with cold light. Chapter 1391. Seeing Mirage Sun Yudu pouncing in front of him and the huge claw that covered the sky falling down on his head, Lin Feng's expression didn't change, and a faint smile still appeared on the corner of his mouth. He put his palms together in front of his chest and shouted, "Rise!" From his Naiwan palace, 3 trails of light rushed out and stood in front of Mirage Sun Yudu. A tall and sturdy young man stood in the void, and he looked strong and powerful. His appearance was exactly the same as Lin Feng's. Vigorous qi and blood flowed out from his body, and he was none other than his clone of Battle God. Beside the clone of Battle God was a giant that was 90 yards tall. There were 9 trails of clear qi around his body, and 9 trails of flowing light flashed together. They were none other than Lin Feng's 9 qi clones. On the other side of the 9 qi clones stood a figure that looked to be around 2 meters tall. He wore silver-white scale armor and had the same facial features as Lin Feng himself, but there were 2 dragon horns on his head. He was none other than his clone of Brontosaurus. Brontosaurus's clone gave off a dragon roar and revealed his true form in the void. He transformed into a silver-white dragon that was much larger than the 9 qi clones. Just by looking at its size, it seemed to be the same size as Mirage Sun Yudu. Mirage Sun Yudu looked at the 3 great clones of Lin Feng in front of him, and his gaze focused as if he had recalled something. He didn't reply and just stretched out his claws to grab at Lin Feng's 3 clones. Violent power gripped the void and stirred up the spirit sea. Huge waves rose up in heaven and earth, and they fused with the black light that filled the sky. They swept towards Lin Feng's true self and clones like a tsunami. Lin Feng's 3 clones didn't try to block Mirage Sun Yudu, this middle tribulation great demon. Instead, they shouted in unison, "Combine!" In the next instant, purple qi surged out from the surroundings of the 3 clones and wrapped them up. The purple qi rippled continuously and transformed into a vast sea of clouds. In the center of the purple sea of clouds, a clear light rushed into the sky. It broke through the purple qi and rushed straight into the horizon. A figure appeared in the clear light. His hair was scattered, and he was dressed in purple. On his forehead and in his eyes, there were taiji patterns slowly swirling. His appearance was exactly the same as Lin Feng's true self. Not only his facial features and external appearance, even the mana fluctuations he actively stimulated were completely the same as his main body, who was fighting the Void Temple on the other side. This Lin Feng, who had just appeared in the clear light, looked at Mirage Sun and Yudu and smiled. The spells on his hands changed, and the powerful spell of fighting heaven and earth changing was executed. The illusory starry sky above his head trembled continuously, and the terrifying power of shifting the orbit of the stars was fed back to his body. Then he saw his hands stretching out horizontally, and his index fingers came together to point at Sun Mirage Yudu. The mysterious eternal calamity light spewed out, and the river of time that was swirling around Lin Feng's true self spun in the void. The other end stretched over and augmented the eternal calamity light as well, causing the concept of power to become even more majestic. Being in the spirit sea, the execution of Lin Feng's eternal calamity light was like adding wings to a tiger. The laws of the great Tao were guided and gathered, causing the changes of creation to be like an eternal and inextinguishable radiance. With his focus on defense, even without the augmentation of the creation divine light of Lin Feng's true self, it transformed into layers of light screens to block the attack of Mirage Sun Yudu. Mirage Sun Yudu looked at this new Lin Feng, and he recalled the time when he had just led the Yudu race back to the boundless world. He had fought with Lin Feng for the first time without meeting him face to face. At that time, Lin Feng had displayed similar miraculous methods, but it wasn't as complete as today. Other than not having creation divine light, the cultivation of this new Lin Feng was exactly the same as the true self. Mirage Sun Yudu's gaze became even colder, and he started to execute his demon power to break through Lin Feng's defense. But after being stopped just like that, Lin Feng's two bodies changed again. His true self carried the Grand Imperial Palace and the life and death formation, and he suddenly changed targets. The powerful attack almost caught Mirage Sun Yudu off guard. Meanwhile, the new body formed by his three clones turned to face the people of Taishu Temple. Lin Feng smiled and looked at the Haotian mirror that seemed to be at the center of the universe, as well as the illusory ball of light that was like a pagoda and a mountain under the Haotian mirror. He put his palms together again. The mysterious waves of magic power instantly shrouded the Nine Heavens Imperial Court of Taishu Temple. The expressions of Dowie Dao Lord and the rest froze slightly. They couldn't be bothered to say anything else, and they immediately executed their magic power to the extreme, reinforcing the light and shadow of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court that was formed by magic power and spiritual qi. They had already recognized at the first moment that the spell that Lin Feng was executing was the yin and yang return to origin mystical realm. This spell was best at restraining other people's magic power combination spells and transformation spells. Enveloped by the yin and yang returning to origin mystical realm, the Nine Heavens Imperial Court of Taishu's light shadows suddenly felt like they were on the verge of collapse. One after another, mysterious and unpredictable mana slashed down, wanting to disintegrate the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. Dowie Dao Lord, Shoichi Dashin, Dowie Dao Lord, and Lin Daohan shone with indescribable and indescribable light. The great void mystic light that filled the sky gathered at the highest level of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. Then it sprinkled down like flowing water, shrouding the entire Nine Heavens Imperial Court. The Nine Heavens Imperial Court that was shrouded by the great void mystic light was no longer shaken by Lin Feng's yin and yang return to origin mystical realm. As the Haotian mirror's light flowed, it once again shrouded Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body, which was shown by the mirror light, suddenly became sluggish. His whole body seemed to be approaching a state of stillness. Under the illumination of the Haotian mirror's light, the purple gas and clear light around his body gradually dissipated and dimmed. Lin Feng's body seemed to be gradually breaking apart, returning to the appearance of the three great clones. On the other side, Lin Feng's real body was fighting with Mirage Yudu, while his disciples, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and White Tiger Great Sage, were already fighting with Shi Xing Yudu, Jing Yin Yudu, and Yun Sheng Yudu. White Tiger Great Sage's gaze was cold as he stared at Mirage Yudu and Yun Sheng Yudu. In the past, his father, the previous White Tiger Great Sage, had perished in the hands of Mirage Yudu. At this moment, he was glaring at Yun Sheng Yudu like a tiger watching its prey, which forced Mirage Yudu to divert some of his attention. Although Yun Sheng Yudu's divine arts and demonic power were strong, he could only retreat temporarily when facing White Tiger Great Sage, who could invoke the Dharma, ending tribulation. In this way, Jing Yin Yudu and Shi Xing Yudu, who were facing Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and White Tiger Great Sage, couldn't gain the upper hand. Lin Feng's real body was also paying attention to the situation of the battle with Taishu Temple. Seeing his clone being shrouded by the Haotian mirror's light and on the verge of disintegration, he didn't panic at all. Instead, he pointed at the primordial golden lamp in the center of the golden lake beneath his feet. The golden liquid in the primordial golden lamp instantly turned into a faint stream of light and soared into the sky, landing on the clone that was shrouded by the Haotian mirror's light. Strangely enough, when the Haotian mirror was touched by the golden light, the Haotian mirror's light was no longer as mystical as before. The dim mirror light kept shaking, and it looked like the ripples of water. Lin Feng's body, which was shrouded by the mirror light, immediately regained his freedom. He used mysterious gate heavenly escape and jumped out of the mirror light. This, Dao Lord Tai and the others frowned. Feeling the change in the golden light and the Haotian mirror, they gradually understood. It's actually doing the opposite. drawing the power of the great Tao of the Spirit Sea to manifest the light to dissolve the mysteries of the Haotian mirror, which was born from the creation of heaven and earth. What kind of existence is that golden disk? Lin Daohan's eyes flickered when he saw this scene. I miscalculated. The Spirit Sea is our temple's geographical advantage, but it's also the geographical advantage of the master of the celestial sect of wonders. Only in the Spirit Sea can he use this method to dissolve the mysteries of the Haotian mirror. No wonder he's obsessed with seizing the central area of the Sea of Light. Tao Lord Xian Yi said, to dissolve the Haotian mirror's light, the light in the golden lamp is also constantly being consumed. His three-body combination technique shouldn't be able to be maintained for a long time. After a moment of silence, Tao Lord Tai stood up. In that case, it will become a battle of attrition between us and Xianmen Tianzong. In the end, it will only benefit others. The Dragon Clan hasn't arrived yet, but it's very likely that they've entered the Spirit Sea. This is also a hidden danger for the master of the celestial sect of wonders, Shoichi Dashin said. Tao Lord Tai shook his head slowly. If he dares to do this, to consume the power of the Haotian mirror, I'm afraid he's prepared. Now is not the time to be conservative. You guys guard the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. I'll go meet the master of the celestial sect of wonders and strive to break the deadlock. As he spoke, he took a step forward and was already out of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. Tao Lord Tai closed his eyes and walked in the air. Step by step, he arrived in front of Lin Feng. Sect Leader Lin, please. After Tao Lord Tai finished speaking, he stretched out both his hands. His jade-white palms changed and formed a grand seal. Streams of light appeared and turned into a huge ball of light in the sky. It was also divided into 9 layers. It looked like a small version of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. With a push of Tao Lord Tai's palm, the ball of light pressed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's finger lightly touched the primordial golden lamp under him. A golden light shot up into the sky and immediately cut off a ray of light from the Haotian mirror that was shining towards him. Then the Tai Chi pattern on his forehead kept spinning. Rays of light flowed in his eyes and then spurted out, falling into the void and turning into a Tai Chi pattern. In the center of each Tai Chi pattern, there was a Taoist sitting upright. Their facial features were similar to Lin Feng's. Next, these Taoists all pointed their fingers at Tao Lord Tai. Lin Feng also pointed his finger. With his finger, multiple space-time seemed to merge into one. All the Tai Chi patterns and the Taoist sitting upright in the center of the pattern disappeared, leaving only Lin Feng. The great Tao manifested the mystery of the Only One, shaking the spiritual sea and the heaven and earth. The starry sky of the universe was constantly shaking at this moment. The terrifying scene of starlight falling from the sky could be vaguely seen. With this move of Lin Feng's changing heaven and earth, the small version of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court that was held up by Tao Lord Tai's palm suddenly showed signs of disintegration. Tao Lord Tai's expression did not change. His hand seal changed again. The small version of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court suddenly became blurry, as if some other change had occurred. The leaders of the 2 strongest sects in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land finally fought at this moment. Chapter 1392. As the Taiwan Tao Venerable's technique changed, the light of the great Tao lit up in the void of the Spirit Sea, and the light streams were added to his body. It was not through the Haotian mirror, but directly added to his body. Not only Lin Feng, who was fighting, but even the strong practitioners of the Yudu race, as well as the future star glazed Buddha Master, Monkey, and the Enchantress who had been watching silently from the sidelines, had their eyes lit up and their gazes landed on the Taiwan Tao Venerable. The Nine Heavens Imperial Court that the Taiwan Tao Venerable was holding in his palm was originally divided into 9 levels. Middle Heaven, Envy Heaven, Consort Heaven, Gung Heaven, Lai Heaven, Open Heaven, Harmonious Heaven, and Shun Heaven. The 9 heavens of completion heaven. But at this moment, The boundaries of the nine heavens imperial court gradually became blurry, and an invisible airflow, from bottom to top, completely connected the nine heavens. This invisible airflow started from the middle heaven gate, passed through the layers of starlight in envy heaven, passed through the cracks in the boundaries that split the universe, passed through the layers of golden lightning in lie heaven, passed through the majestic immortal city in open heaven, passed through the many worlds in harmonious heaven, and passed through Shun heaven's boundless celestial realm and divine kingdom. In this process, this airflow also guided everything that he had experienced: the heavenly gate, starlight, lightning, immortal city, and celestial realm. All existences were wrapped by this airflow and then guided all the way up, continuously ascending all the way to the ninth level, entering the great void mystic light that was not bright or grand, but was incomparably mysterious, indescribable, and indescribable. But at this step, the airflow still did not stop. Instead, it passed through the great void mystic light and continued to ascend. This airflow blurred the entire nine heavens imperial court, turning the nine heavens imperial court into one, then breaking through the shackles and ascending to the nine heavens together. Above the nine heavens was an even higher existence, the 10th heaven imperial court, the wondrous realm of above heaven. Reaching this wondrous realm, the light of the great Tao and the spirit sea shook together, as if it was being guided. Even the primordial golden lamp in the giant golden lake below seemed to be shaken at this moment. Under the blessing of the light of the great Tao, that airflow finally had a concrete form, shining brightly. But this airflow was even more mysterious and unpredictable than the great void mystic light of above heaven. It was difficult to describe, as if it was beyond everyone's understanding. It was the most powerful divine power in the history of Taishu Temple, the heavenly secrets of the heavens. Since the ancient times, within the Taishu Temple that produced experts in large numbers, only 3 people were able to cultivate this technique. All 3 of them could be ranked among the 5 strongest cultivators in the history of the human race. The founder of the Taishu Temple, the Taishu Taoist who created this method, Red Emperor Wen Qiyang, the #1 fighter in the history of Taishu Temple and even the entire human cultivation world. And now, in front of everyone's eyes, at his peak, he was the undisputed #1 person in the divine land of the ancient era, the Grand One Supremacy. Tao Lord Tai One's eyes were still closed, but Lin Feng could feel that there was an invisible gaze staring at him. It was the gaze of Tao Lord Tai One. As soon as the stream of light appeared, under its illumination, Lin Feng's many figures that were one with time and space actually gradually became unstable. One after another, Tai Chi patterns appeared in the void. At this moment, time seemed to be forced to flow backwards. Even Lin Feng's techniques, divine sense, and magic seemed to flow backwards. Tao Lord Tai One also stretched out his finger and led the airflow toward the center of Lin Feng's eyebrows. Wherever the airflow reached, there was a sound in the void. It was not a mournful wail, but a constant cheer. The great Tao of heaven and earth was happy for the appearance of Tao Lord Tai One's finger. Lin Feng's Qiankuan reversal technique, which could restrain the great void mystic light of above heaven, seemed to collapse under this finger. It was difficult to continue. The dark starry sky above his head also returned to peace at this moment. The stars returned to their normal orbit and naturally flowed. The universe was peaceful. Lin Feng looked silently at Tao Lord Tai One's finger. He had a faint feeling that if he was hit by this finger, not only would his current body be destroyed, but even his original body would be affected. If it was any other spell, this would at most destroy the body. But the art of heaven displayed by Tao Lord Tai One seemed to be condescending, standing on a higher level to cast the spell. When the finger fell, all related existences would be affected. It seemed that it was just a light tap of the fingertip, but it seemed to lead the entire universe to suppress it. It was no wonder that the Buddha was pressed into Mount Meru by Wen Qiyang. Such a method was indeed the most powerful fighting method in the history of the human clan cultivation world. It gathered the power of the great path of heaven and earth. At this moment, the brilliance of the primordial golden lamp in the spiritual sea had a miraculous effect against the art of heaven. The primordial golden lamp in the giant golden lake below shook involuntarily, but the light of the Haotian mirror also attacked continuously. Lin Feng looked a little more solemn. He put his index fingers together and pointed forward. Two rays of light, one black and one white, burst forth and intertwined to meet Tao, Lord Taiwan's art of heaven. As soon as the eternal light of calamity appeared, Tao Lord Taiwan's condescending power suddenly lightened. The brilliance of the great path in the spiritual sea was also drawn by the eternal light of calamity. The power of the bell of fate and the river of time was added to the eternal light of calamity, making it more mysterious and magnificent. Even the 9 heavens, which led the creation, was no match for the changes of creation and destruction at this moment. Under the scouring of the eternal light of calamity, the light condensed by the art of heaven at Tao, Lord Taiwan's fingertip was gradually worn down. Seeing this scene, the future star-glazed Buddha master, who had been watching silently from the side, smiled slightly. In the end, the foundation of the great path has been damaged. Otherwise, under the art of heaven, anyone who has not reached the middle or complete tribulation stage will be knocked down by a realm. Seeing the power of the eternal light of calamity, Tao Lord Taiwan's expression did not change in the slightest. Even though he could fight or even defeat a great demon in the Dharma-ending realm with his art of heaven alone, at this moment he could only sigh. Suddenly, Tao Lord Taiwan's body lit up with a brilliance that looked like crystal fragments, instantly setting up a layer of protection in front of him. Being shrouded by this layer of light, Tao Lord Taiwan suddenly seemed to have stepped into a realm without calamities and tribulations. He was untouched by all magic, untouched by all evil, untouched by darkness, and untouched by murderous tribulations. At the same time, the power of the art of heaven was wearing down the eternal light of calamity. At this time, when the eternal light of calamity fell on Tao Lord Taiwan's body, it was immediately blocked by the mysterious light curtain. The mysterious light curtain seemed to be formed by crystal fragments. Each crystal fragment was engraved with a profound rune, and each rune was formed by countless, even smaller runes. They stretched across the void and connected together, making Tao Lord Taiwan feel as if he was not in this world. Each crystal fragment was like a world, and each rune seemed to have a god sitting within it, singing the great Tao of the heavens. The power contained in this brilliance was something that Lin Feng was very familiar with. It was the power of the creation divine light. This was the creation divine light that belonged to Tao Lord Taiwan. It was called the calamity divine light, and its brilliance was endless. In the past, it was because of the protection of the Haotian mirror, the creation divine light, and the existence of the great void yin-yang formation that Tao Lord Taiwan could survive the attack of the great demon in the Yuang heavenly sea. But now, the calamity divine light showed its miraculous power once again, helping Tao Lord Taiwan resist Lin Feng's eternal light of calamity. Heaven's secret art of the heavens, divine light of tribulation, one offensive and one defensive complemented each other, together creating the strength of the greater one Tao Lord, allowing him to survive under the attack of Lin Feng's eternal light of tribulation imbued with the power of the river of time. Although he was protected by the calamity divine light, Tao Lord Taiwan's figure was still forced back by the mysterious brilliance. Lin Feng stood in the void and looked at Tao Lord Taiwan. He nodded. "Your reputation is well-deserved." Tao Lord Taiwan sighed. "Sect Master Lin is too humble. In order to maintain this body, you have to use your innate techniques to fight. You can't maintain your strength for long. If this was your real body, I might not be able to withstand this attack. Not to mention, this is just your fake body." Lin Feng smiled faintly. "You don't have to be so polite," Tao, Lord Taiwan. The current you can't be compared to when you were at your peak. You and I aren't fighting and learning from each other. We are fighting for the spirit sea. Let's just use our own methods. He activated the primordial golden lamp to give off another beam of golden brilliance to fight against the Haotian mirror's mirror light. He then said unhurriedly, I have the time I want. Next, it will depend on the methods of Tao friends. As he said that, Lin Feng landed on the primordial golden lamp below. On the other side, his real body that was fighting with Mirage Sun and Yudu had also abandoned it. He brought Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and the rest down. Hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone's expression turned apprehensive. They carefully observed the huge golden lake below and saw that even though the golden liquid in the primordial golden lamp had been exhausted, there seemed to be a whirlpool in the center of the lake. In the whirlpool, the primordial golden lamp grew bigger and supported Lin Feng and the rest. It then sank down into the whirlpool. Seeing this, not only the Yudu clan and the Taishu temple, even the heavenly enchantment great sage and the monkey who had been watching from the sidelines all pounced towards Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng smiled leisurely, and his real body sat cross-legged in the center of the primordial golden lamp. He closed his eyes as though he was meditating. At this moment, the body formed by the three avatars slowly raised a huge black umbrella. On the surface of the black umbrella, there were many dirty and moldy places. It looked extremely dilapidated, but Lin Feng gently tapped with his finger, and a small black pagoda flew out to land in the center of the black umbrella. The black pagoda shrunk continuously and attached to the black umbrella like the tip of the umbrella. Lin Feng spun the black umbrella, and the primordial golden lamp pulled a large amount of golden lake water up to land on the surface of the umbrella. Rays of light poured out from the small black pagoda and flowed on the surface of the umbrella along with the golden lake water. The dirty and moldy spots on the surface of the black umbrella instantly vanished. Lin Feng raised the umbrella, and in the next instant, all kinds of violent attacks landed on the surface of the umbrella. However, the umbrella and the small black pagoda flowed with layers of light and instantly transformed into an eternal night that seemed to cover the sky, isolating all the attacks from the world. One umbrella covering the sky, indestructible. This treasure is now the true heaven-covering umbrella. Lin Feng sat leisurely under the umbrella and looked at Grand One Venerable with a smile. This umbrella of mine is probably more worthy of being called indestructible than your calamity, resolving divine light. Chapter 1393. Lin Feng's true body sat in the center of the primordial golden lamp with his eyes closed. Streams of light gathered towards the primordial golden lamp from all directions. Then, the primordial golden lamp connected with Lin Feng, causing his entire body to be overflowing with colors. Rays of the great Tao hung down from his body like ribbons, looking abnormally mysterious. This scene landed in everyone's eyes, and their gazes froze. They could clearly feel the radiance of the great Tao in the spirit sea trembling continuously. At that moment, Lin Feng had already started to refine his spirit sea through the huge golden lake in front of him. Seeing Lin Feng's body sink into the lake along with the primordial golden lamp, Sun Mirage Yudu's gaze turned cold. He waved his claw, and the broken horn that had forced back the heavenly turtle golden bead also fell into the lake. The golden lake that was covered in black god markings and infected by Sun Mirage Yudu's demon power consciousness contained the broken horn that came from the Yu Wang celestial sea. Instantly, layers of purple light shone from within. A whirlpool also formed in the lake, and it pressed towards the center of the lake where the primordial golden lamp was. Everyone in Taishu Temple was high up in the Nine Heavens Imperial Court, and they also formed a spell. The Haotian mirror in the sky split off a faint mirror light, and it shone towards the white clouds in front of them, which was the surface of the lake that they occupied. The corner of the huge golden lake that was shrouded by the white clouds also formed a huge whirlpool, and it pressed towards the center of the lake. At that moment, the monkey and the enchantress, who had been watching by the side, also performed their own spells. In the lake that their demon power and consciousness occupied, they each produced a smaller whirlpool, and they also pressed towards the direction of the primordial golden lamp. Although the primordial golden lamp still occupied the center of the lake, it couldn't continue to sink with the whirlpool, and it was temporarily fixed in the middle of the water. Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. His true body still seemed to be meditating, and rays of light flowed continuously on his body. The body formed by his 3 clones held the heaven-shrouding umbrella in one hand and an indescribable spell in the other. It stood in front of him with a smile that was yet not a smile. It looked leisurely at Dao, Lord Tai, Mirage Sun Yudu, and the rest. Sun Mirage Yudu revealed his true form and stood in the void like a mountain. He looked down at Lin Feng and the primordial golden lamp who were in the heart of the lake and let out a long howl. As he roared, countless divine patterns flickered on the horn on top of his head, and a spot of black brilliance spread out from between his eyebrows, turning into a dazzling and vast black profound light that struck down towards Lin Feng. From a moment, the black mystic light appeared. The radiance of the great path in the spirit sea let out ear-piercing wails and became chaotic, as if it couldn't bear the heavy burden. The water in the giant golden lake also kept surging. It was as if it transcended space and time, ignoring the flow of time and the distance between them. The moment the black, profound light appeared, it had already arrived before Lin Feng. It was none other than Yudu, Xianhua of Yudu. The black brilliance that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth shook the entire spirit sea. However, the heaven-covering umbrella in Lin Feng's hands had layers of brilliance surging out from the small black pagoda on the top of the umbrella. It merged with the pitch-black surface of the umbrella and formed a hazy and chaotic world. Countless air currents could be seen spiraling in this world, and they seemed to only be long and wide, not thick or thin. They continued to extend in all directions, causing the top and bottom of the umbrella to become 2 completely separated worlds. They couldn't interfere with each other. When the extremely terrifying black profound light landed in this world, it was instantly worn down by the layers of air currents. It was as if rain had landed on the surface of the umbrella, scattering in all directions and disappearing. Sun Mirage Yudu's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at Lin Feng's heaven-covering umbrella. He didn't speak for a long time. The Battle of the Spirit Sea was of great importance, so he naturally didn't have the mood to fight with Lin Feng. Seeing Lin Feng using the heaven-covering umbrella to protect himself, he knew that the defense of this treasure wasn't ordinary. To save time, Sun Mirage Yudu naturally wouldn't specifically attack the heaven-covering umbrella. However, the laws of the great Tao under the heaven-covering umbrella seemed to be completely different from the outside world. His Yudu profound flower naturally landed on the surface of the umbrella. As long as the umbrella didn't break, the person under the umbrella could avoid all calamities and not be touched by all techniques. Taiwan Venerable looked at this scene and also frowned slightly. With a turn of his body, he had already returned to the 9 heavens of the great void celestial gates. He didn't say much and put his palms together. Rays of brilliance rose from the 9 heavens of the great void celestial gates and landed in the Haotian mirror in the sky. Ribbons of light flew around the Haotian mirror and connected with the void. They extended into the space-time of the spirit sea and triggered the singing of the great Tao. As the mirror light condensed, in the center of the treasure mirror, a colorless and formless divine light that was as thin as a strand of hair swept up the radiance of the great Tao in the spirit sea and shot towards Lin Feng. This extremely condensed mirror light shot into the primal chaos domain. It was as if it was lighting up the primal chaos and opening up a new world. However, the aura of chaos flowed and continued to drown out the light, causing everything to return to chaos. There was no light, no darkness. Time stopped and space didn't exist. There was no coldness or heat. Everything was in a blur. The enchantress's eyes were as bright as the stars, but he didn't act rashly. He only looked at the heaven-covering umbrella silently. At the same time, he drove the golden lake water that he had refined and occupied to form a whirlpool to stop the sinking of the primordial golden lamp. At this time, the eyes of the future star-glazed Buddha master gradually lit up. Starlight flashed in the palms of his 48,000 arms. He didn't execute the powerful divine art of the Vairocana divine palm mudra. Instead, his 48,000 arms formed the same mudra. The mudra was extremely simple, ancient, yet profound. It was like the source of all things, the origin of all things, the beginning of all mysteries. It was the immovable venerable's hidden fundamental mudra of all techniques. As soon as the mudra appeared, the void where the future star-glazed Buddha master was seen to step into primordial chaos. He couldn't see the past or the future. Karma and clues gathered in the void. Countless nodes and threads gathered on the body of the future star-glazed Buddha master. It was like he was the source of everything. The karma threads were scattered in the void. They seemed illusory and solid at the same time. They spread towards the golden lake and landed on the heaven-covering umbrella. The threads stirred in the chaos, causing the chaotic world to gradually change. It was like a flat surface that was becoming three-dimensional. Although he wasn't using his own Buddhist divine arts, the profound concept of power still made everyone's hearts tremble. At this moment, the future star-glazed Buddha master was almost at the middle tribulation or completion stage of the current Buddha. Lin Feng, who was under the heaven-covering umbrella, smiled when he saw this. He wasn't surprised at all. The black pagoda at the top of the heaven-covering umbrella was shining brighter and brighter. From the top of the pagoda, ribbons of light fell down and fell into the world above the umbrella. The karma threads triggered by the future star-glazed Buddha master were also breaking apart in the chaotic world. The monkey looked at this scene and scratched his ears and cheeks. He shouted, "Master of the Mystic Gate, let me try your treasured umbrella." As he spoke, he had already revealed his true form. His body expanded, and his crimson eyes were like two great suns that looked down on the world. Behind him, a white-furred, blue-eyed divine monkey appeared. With a leap, his body seemed to surpass the heavens and the earth. He transformed into 3 heads and 6 arms. 3 divine iron rods smashed down on the heaven-covering umbrella. As the acupoints of the golden-furred monkey opened and closed, layers of starlight appeared. Bright stars revolve around his body, constantly rising and falling. It was like a dazzling starry sky. The giant monkey's body pierced through the void. The 3 rods merged into one and smashed down together. That momentum seemed to be able to destroy the galaxy. In the midst of the endless chaos, a dark spot instantly appeared. It was like a black hole. Then it kept expanding as if the universe was opening up. However, even more chaotic air currents kept surging into it, filling up the broken black hole. The darkness disappeared completely. Not only can it defend against spells, but it can also defend against the power of the corporeal body. Everyone thought about it, but they didn't slow down. Sun Mirage Yudu gave a long howl, and the power of Yudu profound flower at the heart of his brows grew stronger. In the black profound light, starlight also appeared, transforming into a dazzling galaxy. It fused with the black light like the stars in the night sky. The mournful wails of the great Tao in the spirit sea became softer, and the radiance of the great Tao became more dazzling. Sun Mirage Yudu even felt that the spirit sea was rejecting him. However, he didn't hesitate. He released his sacrificial stars and raised his demon power to the extreme. He executed the black profound light to attack Lin Feng. However, the terrifying brilliance that was like a galaxy pouring down landed on the chaotic world above the heaven-covering umbrella. Although it stirred up the chaotic air currents, it still couldn't break through. Beside him, Shirshing Yudu and Jingyan Yudu executed their own demon power and divine arts to attack the heaven-covering umbrella. In the 9 heavens of the Great Void Palace, Dao Venerable Tai was silent for a moment. Then, he said, "Try again." Lin Daohan, Shoichi Dashin, Dao Venerable Xian and the others nodded. The 9 heavens of the Great Void Palace rose up, and a huge, illusory ball of light engulfed the Haotian mirror. Then, the resplendent brilliance swayed continuously, activating the great Tao of the Spirit Sea. An extremely majestic pillar of light shot out from within and shot towards Lin Feng. Under the illumination of that light, everything else seemed to lose its color. What entered one's eyes was only endless brilliance. In that ray of brilliance, one could see the creation of heaven and earth and the changes of creation. It was as if it was explaining the history of the world from its creation to the present. The brilliance directly tore a clear crack in the layers of chaos on the heaven-covering umbrella. Once the crack appeared, even the indestructible power concept of the heaven-covering umbrella seemed to waver. However, the aura of chaos continued to circulate, quickly mending the crack and restoring everything to its original state. The various divine arts of Sun Paragon Yu, the monkey, and the future star glazed Buddha Master all landed on the heaven-covering umbrella. Although the chaos kept shattering, they still couldn't break through the seemingly indestructible black umbrella. All the attacks seemed to land on the black umbrella at the same time, but they seemed to be separated into different universes of chaos. They couldn't form a combined force, and only the chaos could be seen. Faced with this situation, everyone fell silent. Their hearts sank as they looked at Lin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged under the umbrella. Chapter 1394. Seeing that none of the attacks could break through the protection of heaven-covering umbrella, everyone fell silent. Phantom Sun Yudu's expression was cold, and there was a murderous glint in his eyes. In the 9 heavens of the Great Void Imperial Court, Lord Tai and the rest were deep in thought. The monkey scratched his ears and cheeks, his eyes blinking continuously. His expression was one of excitement and anxiety. The enchantress's eyes narrowed into slits, flashing with an indecipherable glow. In the eyes of future star glazed Buddha Master, there were also rays of light flashing. If there isn't a single attack, once it exceeds a certain limit, no matter how many attacks there are, it's useless. As his gaze moved, he looked at the 9 heavens of the Great Void Imperial Court and the Haotian Mirror. If the Haotian Mirror was in its perfect state, it might have been able to make heaven-covering umbrella feel some pressure. With the Haotian Mirror suppressing the chaotic air currents on the surface of heaven-covering umbrella, the attacks of the others would have a chance to break through the defense of the umbrella and land in the world under it. Lin Feng and the rest would then be able to escape from the situation where they would never fall. In the 9 heavens of the Great Void Imperial Court, Lord Tai, Shoichi Dashin, Lord Xian and Lin Daohan had already understood the crux of the matter. Slowly, Shoichi Dashin said, "In this situation, let's use the second plan." Although the strangeness of the master of Xianmen's strange golden plate is unexpected, it has increased the success rate of the second plan from less than 50% to more than 90%. If we continue to delay, the situation will become worse. Although the master of Xianmen and his strange golden plate are fixed and can't continue to sink, he is still refining the Spirit Sea. In the long run, if we are unable to break through the defense of his treasured umbrella, we can only watch helplessly as he refines the Spirit Sea. When he truly controls the Spirit Sea, all the resources in our hands will be devoured by him in an instant. Hearing this, Lin Daohan nodded and said, "Let's do it." We don't know when the divine land will be able to succeed or if it will be done in time. Although we will lose our current control over the spiritual sea, if we succeed, we will be able to fight again. At the very least, we can prevent the spiritual sea from falling into the hands of others. Now that we're using the second plan, we'll also have the master of Xian sect to draw the attention of Yuta race and that 10,000 law heart ape so that they won't take advantage of us. Tao Lord Xian, he looked at Sun Mirage Yudu, future constellation glazed Buddha Master, Monkey, and the Enchantress. He said softly, "The methods of the Master of Profound Gate are beyond imagination, but the impact on others is within our expectations. He has also created an external environment for the implementation of the second plan." Tai Taoist Lord, who had been silent all this while, said, "We still have to be vigilant. Although no one wants to see the Spirit Sea fall into the hands of the Master of the Celestial Sect of Wonders, it is a rare opportunity for them to seize or destroy the Haotian Mirror." The other big shots of Taishu Temple nodded in unison. Then, Tao Lord Xian, he formed a spell with his left hand and gently tapped the Haotian Mirror with the finger of his right hand. Lin Daohan stretched out his left hand, and on the back of it, a great void engraving shone brightly. Rays of brilliance flowed around it. His right hand also stretched out his index finger and pointed at the Haotian Mirror. The Haotian Mirror, which was like the center of the universe, trembled slightly. Then, it transformed into a bright mirror light and fell into the huge golden lake in front of it. Sun Mirage Yudu, Monkey, and the Enchantress looked at this scene, and their eyes narrowed into slits. They revealed a pondering expression. Future Constellation glazed Buddha Master saw this and smiled. He didn't say a word and simply closed his eyes. He didn't move or speak, nor did he reveal any aura around him. He sank back into the state of nirvanic death, as if he didn't care about anything that was happening in the outside world. Lin Feng, who was under the heaven-covering umbrella, looked at this scene, his gaze lightly flashing. He nodded his head without saying a word, saying in his heart, the clue that was faintly discernible before really did land here. At this moment in the huge lake, the golden lake water surged nonstop. It was shrouded by purple clouds, white clouds, black radiance, golden radiance, and layers of dark clouds, forming 5 huge whirlpools. The other 4 whirlpools squeezed the largest whirlpool occupied by Lin Feng in the center. For a moment, they were in a stalemate. Meanwhile, the Haotian Mirror had sunk into the whirlpool shrouded by the white clouds. The bright mirror light shone in all directions in the water. Ribbons of light extended out and connected with the radiance of the great Tao in the huge golden lake. Then, they continued to stretch out in all directions in the vast world of the Spirit Sea. In the void, the singing of the great Tao rang out incessantly. The flowing light didn't need to pulsate, and rays of light spread out in all directions without end. In the world of the Spirit Sea, there seemed to be a huge magic formation. Slowly, it turned, and from it came a mysterious and profound power. The radiance of the great Tao seemed to lead to the outside of the Spirit Sea, connecting to the outside world. This bizarre scene made everyone raise their eyebrows. The great Tao of the Spirit Sea had returned to its original form, sealing the inside and outside. But at this moment, the radiance seemed to be connected to the entire great Tianyuan world. It didn't reveal any terrifying power, but the concept was deep and profound. This is something that only the Haotian Mirror can do. It is a treasure born from the great Tianyuan world, an existence like the sun of the great Kiliacosm. Lin Feng nodded slightly, looking at the mirror light sinking into the lake. At this moment, the Haotian Mirror's action did not cause any obstruction to the communication between Lin Feng and the Spirit Sea. On the contrary, on the surface of the huge golden lake near the Taishu Temple, the floating white clouds gradually subsided and disappeared. In the center of the huge lake, Lin Feng, who was directly connected to the great Tao of the Spirit Sea, could feel that the communication between him and the Spirit Sea had become more convenient. The area that was occupied by the Taishu Temple was gradually being taken over by Lin Feng and the primordial golden lamp. However, Lin Feng did not feel very happy. At this moment, his attention was on the mirror light that was sinking into the water. He could clearly feel that the aura of the mirror was becoming stronger and stronger. After the battle earlier, the Haotian Mirror had actually been recovering for a long time. In its current state, It could not break through the umbrella with a full blow. The aura of the Haotian mirror was even showing signs of decreasing compared to the beginning. But at this moment, the Haotian mirror in the Golden Lake was clearly growing rapidly, climbing towards its peak state step by step. The attention of the Yudu, strong practitioners, Monkey, and the Enchantress all shifted from Lin Feng to the bright mirror light. Everyone's expression was slightly complicated. Other than Monkey, who was slightly restless, everyone else was silent. Their gazes moved back and forth between the people of the Taishu Temple and the Haotian mirror, as well as between Lin Feng and the heaven-covering umbrella. However, no one did anything else. The attacks against the heaven-covering umbrella all stopped. The world-shaking battle that had been raging just a moment ago stopped in an instant. Instead, it fell into a strange silence. Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and White Tiger Great Sage were all staring at the Haotian mirror at this moment. Yang Qing asked suspiciously, "The Haotian mirror can actually use such a method to speed up its own recovery? Why has there never been a similar situation in the past?" Mr. Miao has never mentioned it either. Zhu Yi's eyes flashed with the talismans of change, and he didn't say a word. Wang Lin, who was beside him, was also in deep thought. Lin Feng's indifferent voice rang out at this moment. It's not that Shihao didn't want to mention it, but he also didn't expect such a change. This is the first time in the history of Taishu Temple. Such a chance can only be chanced upon. The last time they entered the Spirit Sea, it was also difficult for them to execute this skill. Even now, the chance of success is less than 50%. The success of a skill they executed now is actually all thanks to my primordial golden cup. The heavenly Tao is constant, and there are pros and cons at that moment. There was a rare look of hesitation on Mirage Sun Yudu's face, which was usually calm and composed. There was even a faint flash of impatience and fury in his eyes. The Battle of the Spirit Sea had blurred the differences between races and past grudges, but no one could guarantee that everything was absolute. The current situation was no doubt that Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple were competing in speed, but to Yudu race, it wasn't good news. If both sides continued to oppose each other, it would be fine. Otherwise, everyone present would undoubtedly face a disaster. But now, the hope of breaking heaven-covering umbrella was placed on the Haotian mirror. This made Mirage Sun Yudu and the Enchantress hesitate for a moment. They didn't dare to act rashly. This kind of situation where they couldn't control naturally made Mirage Sun Yudu and the strong practitioners of Yudu race frown. Looking at the Haotian mirror, whose aura was gradually rising, everyone sank into a dilemma for a moment. To Yudu race, this treasure mirror had given them an abnormally deep impression in the past. No matter if it was Mirage Sun Yudu or Jingyin Yudu, they all wanted nothing more than to get rid of the Haotian mirror. But now, even though they clearly had the power to stop it, they could only suppress it and watch as the treasure returned to its peak. The complicated feelings of all the great demons were hard to describe with words. However, from the conversation between Lin Feng and Lord Tai, no matter if it was Mirage Sun Yudu or the Enchantress, they could all hear that Taishu Temple definitely couldn't accept the Spirit Sea falling into the hands of Xianmen Tianzong. And the Haotian mirror in its perfect state might not be able to break through the protection of heaven-covering umbrella. To stop Lin Feng from refining the Spirit Sea, Taishu Temple most likely couldn't do it alone. Furthermore, other than heaven-covering umbrella, there was still that exceptional heaven-punishing sword in the Spirit Sea. It was just that in this battle of the Spirit Sea, Lin Feng's figure became more and more mysterious in everyone's eyes, and it was hard to predict. Not to mention Mirage Sun Yu, the Enchantress, and the rest. Even the seemingly calm future star Glaze Buddha Master closed her eyes and didn't care about the outside world, but the image of heaven-covering umbrella still flashed in her mind. In the 9 heavens of the Great Void Palace, Lord Tai and the rest looked solemnly at the Haotian mirror in the lake. In the vast Spirit Sea, it was quiet. All the restless auras had calmed down, and only the light of the great Tao continued to shine. Chapter 1395. The situation in the spirit sea fell into a strange state of calmness and stalemate. After the initial calmness, there was a raging storm. The raging storm calmed down in the blink of an eye. Future Star, Glazed Buddha Lord, Sun Mirage, Yudu, Monkey, the Enchantress, and the others silently looked at the giant golden lake in front of them, at Lin Feng, who was sitting on the primordial golden lamp with heaven-covering umbrella, and at the Haotian mirror that had sunk into the water. At that moment, everyone seemed to be waiting patiently. As time passed, the stalemate became more intense. The spirit sea was turbulent. The colossal world was not calm either. Due to the war between the two worlds, there was a rather vast area on infinite wilderness land that was occupied by the human cultivation world. They used various treasures and spirit formations to change the spirit chi flow of the area, transforming it into a paradise suitable for human cultivators to cultivate and live in. The area near the entrance of the realm passageway that connected the two worlds was naturally occupied by human cultivators. However, there was a storm brewing on infinite wilderness land at that moment. The two pillars of the human cultivation world, the celestial sect of Wonders and the Void Temple, their respective top experts, including the master of the celestial sect of Wonders Lin Feng, who makes demons tremble in fear, will all be heading to the spirit sea this time to participate in the competition. The departure of these two great forces caused the human cultivation world to be empty. Affected by this, the monster clan seemed to be a bit restless. Although they weren't sure when Xianmin Tianzong and the top experts of Taishu Temple would leave the colossal world, and although Lin Feng had left behind the heaven-punishing sword, the demons still had some thoughts. The human cultivation world was also on guard, as if they were facing a great enemy. Although it was not to the extent that they would shrink their defense with all their might out of guilt, some peripheral areas were also temporarily abandoned. Some of the relatively weaker sects and forces simply returned to the vast land of the Divine Land to avoid being unable to respond in time when a major change really occurred. The situation on the border between infinite wilderness land and the southern border of the Divine Land was relatively calm. This was because it was the residence of Xianmin Tianzong, the seventh disciple of the mystic gate master, Huang Tian Emperor Shi Tianhao. Moreover, unlike Yindi City, which was closer to the territory controlled by the demons, Shi Tianhao himself was in the desolate heaven residence at the moment. Putting aside the fact that he was Lin Feng's direct disciple, and that Xianli was also in the vast thousand world, just Shi Tianhao's own cultivation level was enough to make the great demons act cautiously. Back in the void battlefield, the result of the battle between Shi Tianhao and the dragon tribe was intentionally or unintentionally spread by Shi Zhongmao, the great Qin dynasty's Go-Sun king, who was watching from the side. Now, everyone in the heaven primordial world knew that His Excellency Huang, Celestial Emperor, who was in the spirit refinement and void returning realm, could compete with the Dharma-ending realm experts in terms of divine powers. Shi Tianhao, who inherited the Sky City and the remains of the blue sky array left by the ancient heavenly gate, could even fight against the demons of the End Realm. In addition to Shi Tianhao, Yindi Xiao Yan, a disciple of the Mystic Gate Master and the first disciple of the Sect Master, had also appeared in Yindi City for a short time. Xiao Yan, who could activate the power of the Nether Sea, could cause great damage if he didn't care about the territory. The Mystic Gate Master was full of talents, especially Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao, who were known as the four heroes of the Mystic Gate, were even more outstanding. In a short time, they had grown to the extent of dominating the Heaven Yuan realm. With the two of them in charge, the demons on infinite wilderness land were still restrained, although they were eager to make trouble. The demon race was also worried that they would be ambushed by the human race cultivators and the terrifying Sky Destroyer sword that hung above everyone's heads. The tense atmosphere lasted for a long time. However, as time passed, both the human race experts and the demon race demons vaguely felt that the aura of heaven and earth seemed to be changing. Be it infinite wilderness land or the divine land, space-time would often undergo strange changes. It would suddenly distort and then return to normal in the blink of an eye. The direction of the spirit chi meridians also seemed rather strange, as if they were disturbed by some external existence. The disturbance did not originate from the vast thousand domains itself, but from outside the realm. This change was not limited to a corner, but seemed to be everywhere. The Battle of the Spirit Sea was the top event in recent years. Everyone was paying attention to it. Even if they did not have enough strength or opportunities to participate, they still worked hard to collect relevant information so that they could control the situation and help themselves survive this major tribulation. The Spirit Sea seemed to be everywhere and closely related to the vast thousand domains. Its existence could not be felt, but in fact it perfectly overlapped with every space-time in the vast thousand domains. This characteristic appeared in everyone's mind immediately. Comparing it with the changes in front of them, they immediately understood. It was the changes in the Spirit Sea that affected the vast thousand domains that everyone was in. And such a drastic change even affected the vast thousand domains. So the conflict in the Spirit Sea would be extremely intense. It was different from the one-sided struggle between the Yu Huang Heavenly Sea and the Spirit Sea in the past, or the actions of Lin Feng, Taishu Temple, and the Yudu race when the three clans tore open the gap in the Spirit Sea again. The changes at this moment originated from within the Spirit Sea. The experts of different forces were fighting and shaking the Spirit Sea, but they were carefully maintaining it to prevent tearing open the gap again and causing everyone to be repelled by the Spirit Sea. Such a movement in the Spirit Sea world did not feel anything, but if seen from the outside, the entire Spirit Sea itself was like waves that were constantly fluctuating. The fluctuations were not violent, but they continued for a long time. After realizing this, everyone in the Great Thousand World gradually understood that there must be a fierce battle between the top experts in the spiritual sea. In particular, the fluctuations showed signs of becoming more and more intense. Affected by this, the tense situation in the vast thousand domains gradually changed. On the vast continent of infinite wasteland, at the extreme border between the territories of the human race and the territories of the demon race, stood a majestic city, constructed from the remodeling of an entire spirit mountain. On the cliff at the side of the mountain city, the three large words Flame Emperor City were written. It was precisely the residence that belonged to the Flame Emperor Xiao Yan. At this moment, within Yin Emperor City, Xiao Yan himself was not present. His Fun Tianya's first seat disciple, Dao Master Vast Sky Tang Jun, was also present at Fun Tianya's cave dwelling in Jade Capital Mountain. The person guarding here was the third-generation first seat of Fun Tianya's direct disciple, perfected Lord Yuanmi, Duan Muhong. However, Duan Muhong was mainly in charge of daily affairs. The strongest expert guarding Flame Emperor City was the Mahayana-level treasure that guarded Fun Tianya's lineage, the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. At this moment, Flame Emperor City had been built quite majestically. In a side hall beside the central hall, a majestic-looking middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Silently, he was regulating his breathing. Dragon scales could be vaguely seen on this middle-aged man's exposed skin. Although he was wearing an ordinary robe, he exuded an indestructible aura. This man was the treasure spirit of the Dragon God Heavenly Armor, Long Shinka. He had manifested his body and was cultivating silently in Flame Emperor City. Although the flow of spirit chi here was not as good as in Fun Tianya on Mount Yujing, it was still extraordinary after years of renovation. Although Long Shinka was cultivating here, he was also paying attention to the situation in the vast thousand domains. He was guarding Flame Emperor City and naturally understood the current situation. Being at the frontier between the human territory and the demon territory, Flame Emperor City was in a very sensitive and special position. If the demon race wanted to launch a probing attack, then Flame Emperor City was undoubtedly a very good choice. According to Xianmin Tianzong's reaction, they could figure out the truth and the situation inside the Divine Land. Long Shinka reacted quickly. He stood up and walked out of the side hall. His gaze pierced through the void and looked into the distant horizon. Opposite him was the territory controlled by the demon race. Long Shinka stood with his hands behind his back. The aura on his body gradually rose and became hotter. It even gradually caused the temperature of the entire Flame Emperor city to rise. His ordinary robe disappeared and was replaced by his real body, the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. Other than the helmet, Long Shinka's entire body was covered in heavy armor. Apart from his indestructible aura, he also exuded a ferocious power that was full of aggressiveness. Long Shinka stood there like a real dragon, causing the wind and clouds to change color. A gentle youth wearing a purple robe embroidered with a Tai Chi pattern and a flame symbol appeared behind him. This youth didn't look as bold and unrestrained as the other disciples of Fun Tianya's faction. He didn't look like a blazing flame, but he gave off a warm feeling like fire. He was Duan Muhong. Duan Muhong bowed to Long Shinka and said, "Senior, were the spirit chi pulsations and spatial distortions caused by the spirit sea?" He was very respectful to Long Shinka, not only because Long Shinka was a Mahayana Grey Dharma treasure, which was equivalent to a Tao integration realm almighty, but also because he was a Dharma treasure personally refined by the profound sex patriarch, Lin Feng. It was also the earliest Dharma treasure that Xianmin Tianzong knew of. Before bestowing it to Fun Tianya's faction, the Dragon God Heavenly Armor had always been with Lin Feng's War God clone. To Lin Feng, it was also a Dharma treasure that had been with him for a long time. Long Shinka didn't turn around. His gaze was still fixed on the void in the distance. He said, "It's most likely correct. Has this junior disciple returned to the main sect in the Divine Land?" Duan Muhong answered, "Yes, all disciples below the Yuanying stage have returned to the Yujing Mountain in the Divine Land." Long Shinka nodded. "That's good. Next, let's see if the demon race will come to invade." As he spoke, he suddenly frowned. His gaze became intense as he looked into the distance. There, the sky suddenly darkened. Under the shroud of a towering demon chi, the sunlight also became dim. The shocking aura was pointing toward Yin Emperor City. Chapter 1396. Long Shinka looked at the overflowing demonic aura and frowned slightly. Here, the demonic power was unbridled and shocking. Duan Muhong quickly sensed its presence, but he didn't panic. This demonic power, it feels like the ancient devil ape race. Long Shinka nodded. That's right, it's the demonic power of the ancient devil ape race. However, they're still testing us. If they really wanted to launch a surprise attack, they wouldn't have done so. Now that they were spreading out their demonic power, it looked like they were challenging them. Duan Muhong said in a low voice, "The primordial demonic ape clan will not easily provoke our sect. Even if they want to test us, they will test the other sects and forces in the vast land of the Divine Prefecture." According to the analysis of Grandmaster and the others, if the primordial demonic ape clan takes the lead, it means that the demon clan is likely to have a limited temporary alliance. As for the strong practitioners of the dragon race, especially Yuan Dragon King, they probably haven't entered the Spirit Sea yet. They want to stir up trouble in the Divine Land first. Xianmin, Tianzong, Taishu Temple, and the Yudu race had all entered the Spirit Sea. Few people in the Great Thousand Worlds could restrict the dragon race. However, Lin Feng left heaven punishing sword in the Great Thousand Worlds. Even Yuan Dragon King would tremble in fear. However, looking at it from another angle, Yuan Dragon King's existence also hindered Xianli's path. Without Xianli, Yuan Dragon King would be unstoppable when he stepped into the Divine Land. Xianli staying in the Divine Land was mainly to guard against Yuan Dragon King. If the other great demons of the Age of Cultivation Decline attacked, the human cultivation world would still have some room to maneuver. The strong powers could still resist, and with proper planning, they could even gather their superior forces to encircle and annihilate them. With the dragon race bearing the most pressure, the other demon races would be much more relaxed. In exchange, they naturally had to do something. Long Shinka said, the ancient devil-ape race might not have gotten the secret key to the Spirit Sea. However, if that's the case, Mount Shu Sword Sect will be under a lot of pressure. The current Mount Shu Sword Sect, in addition to their mortal enemy, the primordial demon ape clan, was also hated by the Dragon Clan. In the previous war between the two worlds, Sword Venerable Heavenly Dipper of Mount Shu had rushed to the rescue of Tianhuang mainland and fought alongside the previous emperor of the Great Qin dynasty, Stonefeather, and the son of Xianmin Tianzong, Zhu Yi, against the experts of the dragon race. In the end, Stonefeather died, while Sword Venerable Big Dipper and Zhu Yi joined forces to kill the Blue Sky Dragon King. In the same battle, Xianmin Tianzong Ez, Zhu Yi, and immortal Wu Hongyan killed a large number of great demons of the dragon race, causing both sides to have a deep hatred for each other. However, even though Xianmin Tianzong was relatively empty, the dragon tribe would not easily invade with Xianli around. To the dragon tribe, the Great Qin dynasty and Shi Xingyun were better targets. As for the Mount Shu Sword Sect, even though they were relatively weaker, they could still be attacked. In particular, if the two great demons of the primordial demon ape race, the omnipotent sage and the great sage of Zhuyan, came to Shu Mountain together, then if the experts of the dragon tribe interfered, the pressure on the Shu Mountain Sword Sect would be extraordinary. Duanmu Hong understood this as well and answered, "I've already communicated with my fellow Taoists from the Mount Shu Sword Sect. They should be prepared, and Seventh Grand Uncle has already reported." Longshinka nodded wordlessly. It was true that the Huang Tian Celestial Arch, Shi Tianhao, was also in the vast Tianhuang mainland, but since the other party had decided to take action, there must be a great demon expert watching over Shi Tianhao. Demonic aura swayed in the distance, and billowing black smoke covered the sky above Yin Emperor City. Within the black smoke, lights suddenly shone. 6 light spots grew bigger and bigger. In the end, they were like 6 stars shining brightly, shining through the thick black smoke and illuminating the Yin Emperor City below. Longshinka and Duanmu Hong frowned slightly. Of the 6 light spots, 2 were red, 2 were blue, and 2 were purple. They were clearly the eyes of 3 demons. Within the black smoke, 3 figures appeared. The one in the lead was a completely pitch-black giant ape with crimson-red eyes. The powerful vital energy in its entire body shook the void and suffused the surroundings, causing the entire heavens and the earth to seem dry and hot. It was a Skylink fiend ape at the astral soul fusion realm. On his left was a slightly smaller blue-eyed white monkey, but its aura wasn't any weaker. It was a divine monkey of the extreme spirit level. It was the current spiritual great sage, who was originally at the primordial true spirit realm. Not long ago, he had successfully refined the astral soul integration realm and demonic soul integration realm. His strength and cultivation had increased by another level. On the right of the heaven, reaching demon ape was a lion-like demon. Purple smoke puffed out of its nostrils as it sat in the void. It turned out to be a swan and eye. Nowadays, the swan and eye with the highest cultivation was at the astral soul integration realm. Many years ago, it had submitted to the Spirit Abyss Mountain and submitted to the primordial demon ape clan. Usually, it cultivated in the Spirit Abyss Mountain and was supported by the primordial demon ape clan. When the ape clan needed it, it would also lend a hand. At this moment, it had followed the other 2 ape clan demons to Yin Emperor City. As for whether it was really willing to provoke Xianmin Tianzong, who was currently in the limelight, only the Swan and I himself knew. However, at this moment, the 3 demons at the astral soul integration realm had revealed their true forms and were standing in the void. To the current Yin Emperor City, there was no doubt that they were extremely oppressive. That heaven-reaching demon ape stood in the void, black smoke surging out of his body. Looking at Yin Emperor City, he slowly said, "The 2 of you, let's do it." His gaze swept across Extreme Spiritual Great Sage and Swan and I. Extreme Spiritual Great Sage grinned and did not speak. extreme spiritual great sage, had painstakingly cultivated from the primordial true spirit realm to the astral soul integration realm. Seeing that the extreme spiritual divine monkey clan was about to rise again, he was naturally not willing to be the vanguard for the heaven-reaching demon ape clan. Even if he wanted to increase his prestige and influence, it would not be too late to do so after he had reached the Dharma-ending realm. However, the heaven-reaching demon ape clan's plan was obviously the opposite. The omnipotent great sage might have had enough magnanimity, confidence, and pride, but the other experts of the omnipotent demonic ape clan had some reservations about the divine spiritual monkey. Currently, Great Sage Yu Chung frowned his heart as he looked at extreme spiritual great sage. Although the other party had reached the astral soul integration realm later than him, when he stood beside him, Great Sage Yu Chung felt uneasy. That white figure seemed shorter than him, but when he looked at him, he felt as though he was looking up to him. This was not because of the accumulated might of Ji Huang Xinyuan, nor was it because of the influence of his clan's bloodline. Instead, it was because of the other party's mystique and demonic power. Perhaps because of the depth of his cultivation, his accumulation of demonic power, physical body, and chi were not as good as Great Sage Yu Cheng's. However, in terms of mystique, Great Sage Yu Chung was superior. If the two of them fought to the death, it would be hard to predict who would win. However, Great Sage Yu Chung had a feeling that he would most likely lose. At this moment, he looked at Great Sage Yu Chung. Great Sage Yu Chung chuckled and did not say much. His white, furry paw reached out and grabbed towards Yin Emperor City below. Although he was not afraid of Great Sage Yu Chung, the strongest expert of the ape clan was still the Great Sage. And the heaven-reaching demon ape clan was also the strongest tribe of the primordial demon apes. Great Sage Yu Cheng's paw seemed to reach out casually. However, on that furry paw, the snow-white monkey fur all stood up, each strand like a raging dragon. All the monkey fur stood up, as hard as fine gold or divine metal. Large amounts of demonic chi gushed out, as black as ink. It fused with the snow-white monkey fur and turned into a gray haze. The gray monkey paw grew larger and larger, pressing down towards Yin Emperor City with a momentum that could cover the sky. Longshinka looked up at the sky. The helmet that looked like a dragon head was already covering his head. The visor had fallen off, revealing only a pair of eyes. As the scales on the armor opened and closed, large amounts of dragon might and auspicious clouds surged out, making him look even more majestic. Longshinka did not move. He lightly stomped his feet. The entire mountain city suddenly lit up. Beams of fiery light shot up into the sky, covering Yin Emperor City. A boundless sea of fire spread out in all directions, covering the sky. In an instant, the surrounding area was turned into a world of flames. The green Ksitigarbha true flame and the golden solar true flame lit up together. The flames formed many array patterns, connecting into one. The green flames became Yin flames, while the golden flames became sunlight. With Yin Emperor City as the center, they began to revolve. Yin Emperor City itself, at the center of Yin Yang, was shrouded in golden flames that flickered with red and blue radiance. It was the Nanmingli fire, the core of the array. A huge flaming Tai Chi diagram formed in an instant, appearing in front of Great Sage Yu Chung, Great Sage Extreme Spirit, and Taowu Sage. This was the defensive array that Flame Emperor Xiao Yin and Emperor Heluo Li Yuanfang had set up in Yin Emperor City. It was derived from Xiao Yan's own Yin-Yang Burning Sky formation. If Xiao Yan were to control it himself, this array could also become the true Yin-Yang Burning Sky formation. However, the peak state of the Yin-Yang Burning Sky formation used different structures of the firmament fire lotus to form the Yin and Yang. It was extremely powerful, but the difficulty of controlling it was undoubtedly much higher. Not to mention the other disciples of Fun Tianya. Even Li Yuanfang could not set up the array independently. But now, after the modification, the formation used a single true fire to set up the formation. The difficulty was greatly reduced. Even if Xiaoyan wasn't here, his disciples, as well as Long Shunke, could all activate it. The array operated automatically. Long Shunke and the others only needed to activate it. Without using the firmament fire lotus to set up the array, the firepower of a single solar true flame was enhanced to increase its power. The towering flames turned the surrounding world into a sea of fire with the power to burn the heavens. Even when Great Sage Extreme Spirit used the Great Spirit King's hand to grab it, he felt the surface of his hand burning as though it was about to ignite. Great Sage Extreme Spirit King snorted and turned to look at Great Sage Yu Cheng and Tao Wu Sage. The Great Sage of Yu City did not say much this time. His blood-red eyes flashed with ferocity. His huge body, which was like a mountain, floated in mid-air and fell straight down on Yin Emperor City. It was like a huge mountain was pressing down on them. The void cracked directly, as though it was being crushed. Tao Wu Sage let out a roar that sounded like a yawn. He snorted lightly, and rolling purple smoke surged out from his nose, instantly turning into a thundercloud. Chapter 1397. The purple smoke exhaled by the Bayan Great Sage converged into a purple thundercloud in the void. Lightning flashed within the cloud, illuminating the horizon. This purple thundercloud continued to spread in all directions. It also showed an earth-shattering momentum as it descended towards Yin Emperor City and the True Fire Array. Plumes of smoke filled the air. Within the smoke, one could feel the majestic essence chi of thunder. It transformed into arcs of lightning that intertwined with the smoke in the air. The thunder did not look particularly violent. Instead, it was like smoke drifting down. It looked light and powerless, completely unlike other thunderbolts that were intimidating and ferocious. However, when the smoke-like essence chi landed on the True Fire Formation in the sky above Yin Emperor City, the flames immediately danced violently, crackling and exploding like a chain of thunder. The two extremely violent powers of thunder and fire clashed continuously at this moment, turning the sky above Yin Emperor City into a purgatory of thunder and fire. Ordinary people, even human experts who had attained the nascent divinity realm or great demons who had cultivated indestructible demon souls, would not be able to endure being trapped in this purgatory of thunder and fire. It was like entering a land of death. This purple smoke-like thunder was the innate mystique of the Bayan tribe, the cosmic purple smoke thunder. It had always been known as the 8 desolation thunder of the dragon tribe's Brontosaurus. In terms of quality, it was inferior to the 9 heavens godly thunder and the chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder. As such, it was naturally inferior to the destructive powers of the Xitigarbha True Blaze, the Solar True Fire, and the Nanmingli Fire. However, the Bayan Great Sage's control of the cosmic purple smoke thunder was rather ingenious. The True Fire Formation below was activated by the True Fire Formation. After all, Long Shunke did not specialize in fire techniques. Although the True Fire Formation was operating normally under the attack of the cosmic purple smoke thunder, and the purple smoke-like thunder was completely destroyed, the rotation of yin and yang also slowed down slightly. Great Sage Yu Cheng revealed his true form. His physical body's vital energy seemed to be able to shatter the void. Rolling black fog appeared on his body, making his already huge body even more oppressive. His killing intent was overwhelming, causing one's heart to tremble. There were even a few specks of starlight within the surging black mist. They were the stars that Great Sage Yu Cheng had refined and fused into his demon soul. Clearly, Great Sage Yu Cheng had used his full strength in this attack. Although Great Sage Che Lingji and Great Sage Bayan had worked together, Great Sage Yu Cheng hadn't held back either. The heaven-reaching Devil Ape was now the leader of the primordial Devil Ape tribe. If there were any gains, the heaven-reaching Devil Ape would naturally benefit the most. Of course, Great Sage Yu Cheng had the intention of supervising the battle to prevent Great Sage Lingji and Great Sage from not doing their best. However, when it was time for him to take action, he didn't hesitate at all. The great sage of U City was like a divine mountain descending from the heavens, smashing down on the true fire formation from above. In that instant, the ferocious explosive force caused the true fire formation to shake violently. Although the layers of raging flames quickly counterattacked, forcing Great Sage Yu Cheng to circulate the black mist around him, making it difficult for him to discern his position and protect himself. The true fire grand formation was already affected by Great Sage Yu Cheng's attack. Now, with Great Sage Yu Cheng's ferocious attack, a gap immediately appeared in the formation. In the boundless sea of fire, large amounts of flames surged towards the gap, filling it up. At the same time, it squeezed Great Sage Yu Cheng in the center, not giving him a chance to take another step forward. After withstanding Great Sage Yu Cheng's most ferocious attack, Great Sage Yu Cheng, who was trapped in the center of the boundless true fire, would suffer. However, just as the gap appeared, before the spirit formation could truly fill it up, Great Sage Lingji's figure suddenly flashed. That similarly huge body of a small mountain suddenly turned into a beam of flowing light. Like an illusory shadow, it passed through the gap in the true fire grand formation and descended towards Yin Emperor City itself, which was enveloped by the spirit formation. The first round of interference and restraint, the second round of forceful attacks to create opportunities, and the third round of seizing the opportunity to break in. Although the three great demons of the astral soul unification realm rarely cooperated, they had already reached a tacit understanding in an instant. They struck out a set of attacks that was most suitable to break through the defense of the true fire grand formation. The power of the true fire was ferocious, and the spirit formation focused on the outside but not the inside. After Great Sage Lingji passed through the spirit formation, he directly attacked Yin Emperor City, his target Long Shinka. The attacks of the great demons came wave after wave. Great Sage Lingji had successfully broken through the spirit formation, but he did not plan to rely on himself for the rest. His first task was naturally to receive Great Sage Yu Cheng and Great Sage Bayan. When he reached the sky above Yin Emperor City, Great Sage Lingji did not say much. With a palm strike, demonic power surged and formed the great spiritual king's hand again, grabbing towards Long Shinka's head. This palm strike covered the sky and caused everyone's vision in Yin Emperor City to darken. It was as if the sky had turned black. Long Shinka's expression did not change. He said to Duanmu Hong beside him, "You guys control the spirit formation. Just do your best. Don't force yourself." After saying that, his figure flashed, and he stepped into the void. He was already in midair, affecting Great Sage Lingji. Meanwhile, in Yin Emperor City, Duanmu Hong had already returned to the main hall. There were cultivators from Fun Tianya's lineage in the hall. They were all at the Yuanying realm. Duanmu Hong said, "Martial uncles, let's support the spirit formation together." Everyone was already prepared for battle. They nodded and said, "Senior Long Shinka has gone to meet the enemy. We have already sensed it." After saying that, they did not say anything else. Everyone formed hand seals and sank their consciousness into the true fire spirit formation. Duanmu Hong did the same. With their support, the true fire spirit formation continued to press towards Great Sage Yu Cheng in the center. Yin and Yang were re-established, and the sea of fire formed a spinning posture. It was extremely terrifying. Meanwhile, in the sky above Yin Emperor City, Great Sage Lingji and Long Shinka were already standing together. At this moment, Long Shinka was like a Dao integration realm martial arts expert. His blood energy might be slightly weak, but his defense was extremely strong. He was facing Great Sage Lingji's great spiritual king's hand head-on. However, Great Sage Lingji, who was using the great spiritual king's hand, was a top-notch existence among the great demons of the astral soul unification realm in terms of physical strength. His escape technique was even more exquisite and nimble, making Long Shinka feel like she couldn't even catch a shadow. However, Long Shinka remained calm and guarded Yin Emperor's city, especially the main palace where Duan Muhong and the others were. He would not be easily mobilized by Great Sage Lingji. If Great Sage Lingji wanted to break the true fire spirit formation and bring in Great Sage Yu Cheng and Great Sage Bayan, he would have to rely on Duan Muhong and the others who were maintaining the spirit formation. Long Shinka guarded this point tightly, so that Great Sage Lingji would not be able to use his escape technique to overtake him. This forced Great Sage Lingji to face him head-on. In a head-on confrontation, Great Sage Lingji was also extremely powerful. Even Long Shinka found it difficult to defend against him when he revealed his true form. However, in this way, Long Shinka would at least have space to unleash his power. Light flashed continuously in Great Sage Lingji's blue eyes, and his ears trembled. This was another of the Great Sage Monkey's heavenly eyes and heavenly ears' mystical abilities. His eyes could observe yin and yang, and his ears could hear the changes of all things. He was best at seeing through the opponent's actual situation. Although it was not like Zhu Yi's Book of Changes, which could deduce all things and principles, it was more sensitive to the instantaneous changes in the opponent's strength and aura. Hence, at the beginning, Long Shinka could still defend against Great Sage Lingji. However, as time passed, he felt more and more pressure. Moreover, the pressure that Great Sage Lingji gave him was growing faster and faster. It seemed to be multiplying every second. This great realization grade artifact of yours is not ordinary. I'm afraid it will take me a lot of effort to completely destroy you. However, it will be even more difficult for you to block my path. As Great Sage Lingji spoke, his figure flashed left and right, and he split into two beams of light that circled around Long Shinka. Long Shinka's eyes narrowed slightly. His usually sharp senses could not tell which was real and which was fake. He could only rely on his own consciousness to choose one of them. His body moved horizontally, and he attacked Great Sage Lingji's figure on the right. The violent power locked the void, preventing Great Sage Lingji's two bodies from changing between each other, turning illusory into real, or turning illusory into illusory. The blue-eyed white monkey on the right paused slightly and blocked Long Shinka's attack. The collision of magic power and demonic power calmed Long Shinka down a little. This is real. Before he could finish his thought, he saw the blue-eyed white monkey's furry face reveal a rather human-like smile. It was full of mockery. Long Shinka's mind that had just relaxed tightened again. He turned his head and saw that the supreme spiritual divine monkey that had rushed past him on the left was charging into Yin Emperor's city without looking back. The supreme spiritual divine monkey in front of him was gradually turning into an illusory bubble. At a certain moment, both were real. Long Shinka realized this, but Great Sage Lingji had already broken through his obstruction and arrived above the main hall of Yin Emperor's city. Violent, demonic power gathered, and he punched the top of the main hall heavily. Above the main hall, a huge flame pattern lit up and blocked Great Sage Lingji's attack. However, following Great Sage Lingji's attack, the main hall also shook slightly. Duan Muhong and the others in the hall were greatly affected. Great Sage Lingji's shrill howl seemed to resound from the bottom of their hearts, causing their spirits to tremble. Even though Duan Muhong and the other spirits were not weak, the difference in their realms was too great. With Great Sage Lingji's interruption, their activation of the true fire formation was naturally affected. Great Sage Yu Cheng was originally squeezed in the center, and the raging true fire formation was about to burn and refine him. However, at this moment, the fire suddenly paused and even showed signs of weakening. Great Sage Bayan, who had been using the purple smoke cosmic thunder to attack from the outside to help Great Sage Yu Cheng reduce the pressure on the true fire formation, shouted. The originally light purple smoke suddenly condensed rapidly, turning into a dark purple ball of air. Its color was almost black. Within that ball of air, there were faint starlight flashing. However, What was more eye-catching was the black lightning snakes rampaging within the ball of air, displaying an extremely violent power. Although the ball of air itself still looked light and weak, the power within it was quite impressive. The ball of chi exploded on the true fire formation, instantly forming a powerful explosive force. Grasping the opportunity in that instant, when the true fire formation slowed down, it once again shook the true fire formation and tore the hole that originally existed in the true fire formation even more. Great Sage Yu Cheng howled at the sky and followed closely behind Great Sage Lingji. He also passed through the true fire formation's obstruction and landed on Yin Emperor City. Chapter 1398. Great Sage Yu Cheng's mountain-like body, even larger than Great Sage Ling Ji, also appeared above Yin Emperor City and then descended. Behind him, Great Sage Bian followed closely, silently breaking through the true fire formation and attacking Yin Emperor City together. Above the city walls, Long Shunke and Duanmu Hong and the others in the main hall all had solemn expressions, but they did not panic. Inside the main hall, there was a huge space-time formation that was flashing with light. At this moment, the light suddenly became even more dazzling. Seeing this, Duanmu Hong and the others relaxed slightly. We made it. Within the light, space and time twisted, and two figures appeared before everyone. One was a purple-clothed young woman with an elegant and noble face that no one dared to look at directly. The other was a slightly ferocious-looking burly man. His eyes flashed with both cunning and savagery. Seeing the purple-clothed girl, Duanmu Hong immediately bowed. "Greetings, Uncle Master Tianqing." The other Xianmin Tianzong disciples in the main hall also nodded in greeting. "Junior Sister Tianqing." "Senior Sister Tianqing." "Junior Sister Lin." "Senior Sister Lin." This girl was the master of Fun Tianya, the adopted daughter of Flame Emperor Xiaoyan. She was one of the two great primordial spirit experts of Xianmin Tianzong, Fun Tianya's second-generation direct disciple, Dao Master Tianqing, Lin Tong. Her current appearance was that of a 15 or 16-year-old girl, slender and elegant. When Lin Tong saw everyone, he also bowed and said with a smile, "It's not too late." Time was tight, and she did not stand on ceremony. With a turn of her body, she landed among the crowd and sat down cross-legged. Her hands formed a seal. The next moment, Lin Tong had already shed her human form and revealed her primordial spirit incarnation, which turned into a huge flaming Tai Chi diagram. The space in the main hall twisted, becoming vast and boundless. However, this flaming Tai Chi diagram was so vast that it seemed to occupy the entire space. Above this flaming Tai Chi diagram, a tall ancient tree stood in the air. Its trunk was straight, and its leaves were luxuriant. It exuded a lofty aura. It was a divine Wudong tree. Around the divine Wudong tree, milky white pure, yang, true, fire burned. The fire did not look violent, but it exuded a gentle feeling. However, it was extremely pure and incomparably pure. As the white flames intersected, they formed the image of a phoenix on the divine Wudong tree. The white phoenix let out a clear cry. "Senior Lu Yuan, please make your move. Let's fight these big macaques together." The fierce-looking big man who had arrived with Lin Tong chuckled when he heard this. He took a step out of the main hall, and his body began to swell. His human face gradually turned into a tiger's head. In the end, this demon's body reached an indomitable spirit, and he looked even larger than the great sage of Peak City. He had the head of a tiger and the body of an ape, and his eyes were as bright as the sun and moon. He was the great sage Lu Yuan. Seeing him, Great Sage Yu Cheng, extreme spirit sage, and Bian frowned slightly. Although he was subdued by Lin Feng, the master of the celestial sect of wonders, and entered Xianmin Tianzong, he rarely continued to walk in the world, but the fierce name of the great sage Lu Yuan still spread far and wide. Until now, no one thought that being subdued by the master of the celestial sect of wonders was a humiliating thing. The great sage Lu Yuan laughed coldly. After glancing at the great sage of Peak City and extreme spirit sage, he ignored the two great demons that had already broken into Yin Emperor City. Instead, he charged towards the great sage Bayan. The great sage Bayan's expression changed slightly. Although the physical strength of the Bayan clan was not weak, it could not compare to the Lu Yuan of the same realm. Furthermore, the mirror manifestation of Lu Yuan's clan could faintly restrain his purple smoke cosmos thunder. Unlike the great sage of Peak City, who specialized in physical strength, and the great sage of spirit sage's mystical abilities, Great Sage Bayan was the one that Great Sage Lu Yuan could restrain the most. The Great Sage Lu Yuan's plan at this moment was clearly to start with the easiest one to deal with. He wanted to end the battle quickly, and then return to join forces with the others to deal with the Great Sage of Peak City and Extreme Spirit Sage. The Great Sage of Peak City frowned slightly. Just as he was about to step forward, phoenix cries rang out incessantly from the main hall of Yin Emperor City. The entire true fire formation changed, descending towards Yin Emperor City. A white fire phoenix rose from Yin Emperor City. It was only 6 feet tall, but when it spread its wings, it seemed to stretch for tens of thousands of miles. The Yin and Yang true fire formation rotated separately. Raging flames descended. The Ksitigarbha true flame, which was filled with Yin fire, extended on the left wing of the white fire phoenix, while the Yang true flame, which was red as Yang fire, extended on the right wing. At this moment, the white fire phoenix was like the intersection point where Yin and Yang converged. It shook its green and gold flaming wings, which covered the sky, and attacked towards the great sage of Peak City. Although it was no longer like the true fire formation from before, the destructive power of the fire phoenix was even fiercer than before. Lin Tong was formed from the heart of the Wudong tree, and was innately close to the pure Yang true flame. At this moment, he was like the spirit of the true fire, controlling the fire phoenix of the true fire formation. He was even more skilled than Longshinka. Even the great sage of Peak City's gaze was extremely solemn at this moment. He even felt an abnormal premonition of danger from the depths of his heart. If he was not careful, he felt that he would not be able to handle it. Even if he has the advantage of the formation's terrain power, he is only at the primordial spirit incarnation realm. As expected, Xianmin Tianzong cultivators cannot be underestimated. The great sage of Peak City did not dare to be careless. He stepped into the void and suddenly leaped up, as though he had stepped onto the path to heaven. This was not a demonic power escape technique, but a leap that was purely an outburst of physical strength. It originated from the powerful physical strength of the heaven-reaching demon apes, causing their speed to be even faster and more ferocious than most bird-type demons when they used escape techniques. Moreover, this leap was not only fast, but also had a powerful explosive force. It instantly shattered the space, time, and other forces that their opponent had placed on them. Using brute force to break through techniques, when the strength of the Great Path exceeded a certain limit, it would instead interfere with the principles and laws of heaven and earth. This was originally a technique of the human race's martial arts adepts, and it was even more vividly displayed by the heaven-reaching demon apes, who had top-notch physical strength. The great sage of Peak City leaped, his figure rapidly turning into a small black that in the void, jumping out of the power of the fire phoenix. In the next moment, the black dot suddenly grew larger and fell again. It was like a falling star crashing into the ground and crashing towards the fire phoenix in Yin Emperor City. In the main hall of Yin Emperor City, above the Tai Chi diagram formed by Lin Tong's primordial spirit, the divine Wudong tree's branches and leaves swayed, and the phoenix resting on it emitted waves of clear cries. Around her primordial spirit incarnation, Duan Muhong and the others continued to sit. Their hands formed seals, and the flame matrix patterns condensed as though they were solid. The spirit design became increasingly clear. In the void outside the main hall, the fire phoenix, which covered the sky and the sun, spread its wings. On its flaming wings, the matrix patterns flashed continuously. In the next moment, The wings retracted, and the fire phoenix's body also rapidly shrank, as though it had turned into a small flame. There was no ferocious aura in the flame. Instead, it shone brightly, noble and proud. It was not overbearing, but no one could ignore it. Although the flame was small, the great sage of Yu Cheng, who was falling from the sky, felt that he could not avoid it. As long as he landed on Yan Emperor's city, he would definitely come into contact with the flame formed by the phoenix. The two sides very quickly collided. Black mist and flames bloomed in the void. From an extremely small point, they spread out in all directions, forming a wave of fire that swept out in all directions. In the air, the great sage of Yu Cheng let out a miserable groan. He seemed to be in great pain. The protective black light around his body was burned to nothing by the raging flames. His mountain-like body was covered in flames, and it continued to explode, forming wave after wave of fire. The great sage of Yu Cheng's eyes, which were like two blood-red stars, dimmed a little at this moment. However, his claws were now firmly gripping a fire phoenix. His entire body's chi and blood exploded, and there seemed to be layers of universes and starry skies in his body being destroyed one after another. The great sage of Yu Cheng opened his mouth and roared. One could vaguely see starlight flickering in his mouth. It was a real star, a star refined by the great sage's demon soul and demonic power. The star completely exploded at this moment, unleashing a boundless force that pushed the great sage of Yu Cheng's power to a peak in an instant. The terrifying force actually tore the fire phoenix apart. The great sage of Yu Cheng let out a long breath. His astonishing aura rapidly fell from its peak, becoming dim and weak. However, what made his scalp go numb was that above the main hall of Flame Emperor City, there was a huge spirit design revolving continuously. A towering tree grew out of the spirit design. Flames blazed on the treetop, bursting with vigorous vitality. After the fire phoenix was torn apart by the great sage of Yu Cheng, it didn't continue to struggle. Instead, it scattered into streams of fire. However, at this moment, another phoenix cry rang out from the flames at the top of the tree. The cry grew louder and louder. The great sage of Yu Cheng frowned slightly. His figure leaped up again, soaring into the sky. This time, he charged towards the great sage of Lu Yuan and the great sage of Bayan. On the other side, the great sage of Ling Ji, who had the upper hand, also abandoned Long Shenke and charged towards the great sage of Lu Yuan. Seeing this, the great sage of Lu Yuan, who had already forced the great sage of Bayan into a corner, curled his lips and flashed away, evading the attacks of the great sage of Yu Cheng and the great sage of Ling Ji. After the three great demons converged, the great sage of Yu Cheng's expression was unsightly. With a low grunt, he summoned a black stream of light. The stream of light transformed into a ball of light in the void. 3 beams of black light shot out from the ball and landed on the 3 demons. The great sage of Ling Ji and the great sage of Bayan showed dissatisfaction and resistance in their eyes, but they didn't say anything. They'd originally come to probe Xianmin, Tianzong, and the Divine Land's human cultivation world. Now that they couldn't even see the Flame Emperor, Xiaoyan, how could this be considered a probe? It wasn't just the great sage of Yu Cheng. The two of them also lost face. They immediately poured all their demon power into the black ball of light and offered a bit of their blood essence as a sacrifice. The next moment, the black ball of light exploded with astonishing power. The great sage of Lu Yuan, Long Shenke, and Lin Tong were all shocked. The few of them wanted to work together to stop the great sage of Yu Cheng and the others, but the black ball of light rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had become extremely huge. Then, a huge palm stretched out from the black ball of light and grabbed at Yan Emperor City. Under this palm, it seemed as if the entire vast Tianhuang mainland was within its grasp. Chapter 1399. A huge pitch-black claw stretched out from the black ball of light. The back of the claw was covered in fluffy black fur that was as hard as steel. The center of the palm was a patch of bluish-black. This palm fully demonstrated what it meant to cover the sky with a single hand. Even covering the sky was not enough to describe its size. The palm fell towards Yin Emperor City. Great Sage Lin Tong, and the others did not feel as if they were in total darkness. The sun was still shining brightly above their heads. However, everyone could not help but feel that the world they were in seemed to be in the palm of this giant hand. At this moment, the huge Yin Emperor City was like a grain of sand that was about to be gripped by this pitch-black giant claw. Great Sage Li Yuan took a deep breath. It's the manifestation of the Great Sage's demonic power. The three of them used their own essence blood and demonic power as a guide, using special treasures to guide the Great Sage's power here. Enveloped by the huge black claw, the surrounding heaven and earth shook. The void seemed as if it would shatter at any moment. The spiritual chi in the surroundings became chaotic. Endless flames flickered in the sky above Yin Emperor City as a powerful force exploded. The distortions in time and space seemed to be contained. Yin Emperor City seemed to be expanding, causing the surrounding heaven and earth to expand as well. It struggled free from that huge palm. Great Sage Lin Tong, Long Shunka, and the others naturally would not wait helplessly for death. They used all sorts of methods to resist. The true fire formation was pushed to the limit by Lin Tong, Duanmu Hong, and the others. It dispelled the fire phoenix's attack form and turned into a towering tree made entirely of flames. Although it was made of flames, everyone present could feel the powerful life force contained within, which was gradually being converted into defensive power. It was a divine wudong tree. Its branches towered into the sky and rose high to resist the omnipotent sage's huge black claw that was pressing down. Long Shinka and Great Sage Li Yuan also exerted their strength, working together with Lin Tong, who was controlling the Yin-Yang Burning Sky formation, to resist the Great Sage. "We're only using treasures to guide him temporarily," Great Sage Lin said in a low voice. "Otherwise, Yu Cheng and the others will not be able to hold out. Their essence blood and demonic power will be sucked dry." Lin Tong and Long Shinka also understood this principle. However, understanding this principle and successfully overcoming the current crisis were two different things. When the two sides collided head-on, Lin Tong and the others immediately felt their bodies tremble as they felt a great pressure. The distorted time and space seemed to fall into a strange stillness at this moment. The huge black claw clashed with the power of the space where Yin Emperor City was, causing time to stop at this moment. However, in the next instant, the momentum of the Yin Emperor City's expansion was once again suppressed by the huge claw. Space started to warp and compress once more. Even though it was slow, it faintly revealed a momentum that was impossible to resist, and it was gradually on the verge of being grasped by the enormous claw once more. The dark green palm crushed the layers of true fire, dissipating the white demonic light spat out by Great Sage Lu Yuan and completely suppressing Long Shinka's power. The divine Wutong tree, which was formed from flames, was brimming with vitality. However, at this moment, it was being suppressed by that immense power. Great Sage Lu Yuan's mirror manifestation mystique could not be used in front of this greenish-black palm. As for his and Long Shinka's physical strength, when compared to the Great Sage, it was like the difference between an adult and a toddler. That huge greenish-black claw did not invoke any profound concepts, nor did it fight tit for tat. It did not use methods to restrain the true fire formation, nor did it search for the flaws in the true fire formation's operation. What it possessed was the ultimate power of one's physical body and blood. It was incomparably majestic, as if it could control the universe with its fingers and crush the heavens. Other than power, there was only power. The great power that interfered with the principles and laws originated from the great demon with the strongest physical strength in the world, the Great Sage. Great Sage Lu Yuan, Lin Tong, Long Shunke, and the others all felt their hearts sink. They could vaguely tell that before the Great Sage of Yu City and the other two great demons could not hold on any longer, Yin Emperor City would be the first to be breached by the Great Sage. For a moment, Yin Emperor City seemed to be on the brink of collapse. But at this moment, the three words, Yin Emperor City, engraved on one side of the cliff of the majestic city that had been rebuilt from the entire Spirit Mountain, suddenly lit up. Beams of purple radiance shot out from the engraved words on the cliff, turning into purple auspicious clouds that made Yin Emperor City, which was enveloped in raging flames, look even more vast and ethereal. In the next moment, bolts of lightning flashed and jumped among the purple auspicious clouds. Lightning did not have a single color. Every bolt of lightning was made up of 4 colors: red, yellow, green, and blue, intertwined. It was as if the 4 colors were intertwined together, looking rather mysterious. Although the 4 colors formed a bolt of lightning, they were clearly distinguished and could be clearly distinguished. Above the 4-colored lightning, there were also black and white flashing and intertwining. Great Sage of Mount Chung, Great Sage of Extreme Sprite, and Great Sage of Bayan felt their hearts clench when they saw this. A deep, cold voice came from the sphere of light that stretched out from the giant black hand above their heads. Lin Feng? The Great Sage immediately sensed the origin of the 4-colored lightning in the purple thunderclouds. It was the yin and yang 4 symbols thunderbolt that Lin Feng's Brontosaurus clone cultivated. It was a brand new thunder technique that Lin Feng had created after refining Brontosaurus's clone. It did not exist in the world before, but it was superior to the 8 Desolation Thunderbolt of the Brontosaurus clan. Great Sage Yu City, High Spirit Sage, and Bayan Great Sage felt bitter. The 3 huge words engraved on the cliff of Yin Emperor City were left behind by Lin Feng's Brontosaurus clone when he came to the infinite wasteland vastland to inscribe for his eldest disciple, Xiao Yin, when the majestic city was first built. Such a miraculous technique was not uncommon among the top experts of the great heaven primordial world. However, what made Great Sage Yu City and the others' hearts sink was that the traces left behind by Lin Feng's Brontosaurus clone not only showed 4-colored lightning, but also layers of purple, auspicious clouds. It was clearly the magical power of the clone's main body. Lin Feng's Brontosaurus clone had extraordinary strength, but it was still not as strong as the Great Sage. If it were Great Sage Yu City and the others attacking, it would be very difficult to destroy the words as a magical power restriction. However, if the Great Sage attacked, he could quickly wear it down. After all, it was just a trace left behind by demon power. However, supported by the purple clouds, the 4-colored lightning seemed endless and would continue to exist until the end of time. The 4-colored lightning flashing with black and white light, at this moment, fused with the raging true fire around Yin Emperor City, forming a flashing red, yellow, green, and blue lightning dragon. Around its body, there were vast fire powers like the Solar True Fire, Xitigarbha True Fire, and Pure Yang True Fire. The Brontosaurus shadow let out a roar that shook the 9 heavens. It soared into the sky, causing the space around Yin Emperor City to expand rapidly. Together, it broke free from the claws of the Great Sage. The Great Sage snorted coldly. The huge demon claw retracted slightly, then clenched into a fist. Like a huge hammer that could break the sky, it smashed towards the Brontosaurus and the majestic city. The Brontosaurus let out a series of dragon roars. Its body rose and fell in the sea of purple clouds, its head and tail nowhere to be seen. Rolling 4-colored lightning burst out from the sea of purple clouds, fusing with the raging fire. As the lightning and fire exploded, it turned into a huge light pillar. Within the light pillar, lightning and fire interweaved, piercing through the sky and earth, and met the iron fist of the great sage. The two sides collided in the void, causing heavy storms that swept in all directions. The space was completely shattered. Spatial cracks filled the space between heaven and earth, forming terrifying black cracks. This part of infinite wasteland seemed to be fragmented, as if it was about to collapse completely. Lightning, sparks, and flames scattered everywhere, making this place look like purgatory. The cold snort of the great sage came from the void. The huge greenish-black palm retracted, returning into the light sphere. The great sage of City, the great spiritual sage, and the great sage of Bain watched this scene with bitterness in their hearts. Previously, the defense of Lin Tong, Lu Yuan, and the others would be broken before the three of them could hold on. But now, the situation was completely reversed. It was hard to say when the great sage would be able to break through Yin Emperor City, but before that, the three of them would definitely have died of exhaustion. The great sage retracted his palm, and the black light sphere also disappeared completely, as if it had never existed. The three demons of the great sage of City let out a dejected roar, then immediately retreated. If it was only Lu Yuan, Lin Tong, and Long Shenke, the three demons of the great sage of City could break through Yin Emperor City and retreat safely. But at this moment, the roaring Brontosaurus rushed out of the purple auspicious clouds, pouncing towards the three demons of the unified astral souls realm. The expressions of the three demons of the great sage of City changed slightly. As the four-colored Brontosaurus danced in the air, it was like Lin Feng's Brontosaurus had descended. The shadow of death shrouded the hearts of the three demons. However, at the same time, the void far away from Yin Emperor City suddenly shook, and a tall figure stepped out. It was a giant ape with a white head and red feet. Its body was as white as jade, and its four crimson limbs were propped up on the ground like burning flames. Its body was incomparably huge, as if it could support the heavens and the earth. It had a pair of crimson eyes that flashed with green light. Its majestic, demonic power shook the heavens and the earth, but it was also a great ape demon of the Dharma-ending realm. It was the current leader of the Zhuyan demonic ape clan, Great Sage Zhuyan. Unlike the Great Sage, he had come here with his real body. He had been hiding and not coming out, so as to prevent top experts like Xiao Yin of Xianmen Tianzong, like the Yin Emperor, from suddenly appearing. At the same time, he had been observing silently. But now, he had no choice but to make a move. The great sage Zhuyan stood motionless in the void, and his eyes shot out beams of green and red light. Wherever the light passed, the void seemed to freeze. Even the powerful lightning dragon slowed down. The next moment, the void twisted and collapsed, and the world fell into a storm of thunder and fire. But at this moment, the void in the sky cracked, and endless calamities of the nether sea appeared. A voice came from within. Sun-chasing Zhuyan, you finally couldn't resist showing yourself. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.